I've got that promotion exam at work coming up, and I need to buy study materials for it. Plus, if I don't stay late and go home on time, my salary ends up being less.
These words came from my husband as we discussed how to manage our finances for the future of our two lives together. He said he'd be earning less because he won't be able to work overtime and instead study for the promotion exam. I thought it was fine since we both were working. However, right after that, I started feeling something was off about my husband's actions. New apps I'd never seen before suddenly increased overtime. And above all, when we went out to eat, he wouldn't take a single bite of his meal. The strange movements of the waiter's hands also caught my attention. I felt like I had seen those hand movements somewhere before. If my hunch was correct, we might be in serious trouble. I left the bar we went into under the pretext of work and started to distance myself from my husband, determined to uncover his suspicious behavior. Thinking no one would notice was a big mistake. I'm Heidi, turning 38 this year. I work as a CPA, and both my professional and personal life are fulfilling. I can now proudly say I enjoy both aspects of my life, though it hasn't always been easy. Graduating from college, I hit the job market right during a recession, making the job fair season particularly challenging. Feeling the pressure to start my career, I felt like I was spinning my wheels back then. Struggling through tough times without seeing much progress, I eventually landed a job at a small company. Honestly, I was less than thrilled to work there. But then, a turning point came my way. Through interactions and observations during business dealings, I realized many companies lacked vitality. Unable to grow profits as expected and struggling with what to do next, many companies were in pain. I wanted to improve these companies' morale and sales, making workplaces where people could smile and enjoy their work. This desire led me to pursue a career that could contribute to company growth and performance, driving me to become a CPA after years of study. Becoming a CPA at 34 was an unusual path from being an employee at a small company. But it helped me find what I truly wanted to do. While my career has been fulfilling, my personal life felt somewhat lacking. What was this emptiness? I realized it was the absence of a partner to share and navigate life's challenges together. My days off involved activities I could do alone, like movies or shopping. As friends got married or had children, spending time together became less frequent. Sure, my alone time was rewarding, but sharing precious moments with someone would be invaluable. Encouraged by a friend, I decided to try a dating tool where I could meet compatible partners. After exchanging messages with a few people, one man stood out as particularly compatible. That man was Trevor, whom I would eventually marry. Trevor, who works for a nationally renowned electronics manufacturer, had an aura of competence. Our message exchanges were smooth, making it easy to communicate without feeling burdened, which was a great sign. When we first met in person, I could easily envision myself being with him.
Nice to meet you.
Well, nice to meet you. Though, having chatted on the app for so long, it hardly feels like our first meeting, does it?
True. It feels like we've known each other for ages.
Our conversation flowed naturally, and the feeling of comfort with him was something I hadn't known before. I never knew it would be so comfortable to be able to hang out with someone in a relaxed manner without having to worry about it. Trevor's smart demeanor was also something I found attractive.
It may surprise you since we've just met, but I would like to date you with marriage in mind, Heidi.
I've also been hoping to find someone as wonderful as you to be with, Trevor, so this makes me very happy. From our marriage-focused dating to the wedding didn't take long. I will never forget Trevor proposing with a bouquet of roses at a beautiful seaside restaurant.
Heidi, I will make you happy. Please be with me. Let's get married.
I'd love to. Thank you, and I can't wait for our lives together. At 38, I finally married Trevor. It may seem a bit late to some, but when it comes to marriage, age doesn't matter. It's about who you're with, and most importantly, being happy. I was convinced I could be happy with him. However, it seems I might have been the only one who thought that way. A faint shadow was creeping over our marriage, and I was reluctant to acknowledge it. We decided to implement an allowance system since Trevor and I both worked and agreed it would be good to have some discretionary funds. We put the money needed for our living expenses into a joint wallet, and anything beyond that was ours to spend freely. When discussing how much money to contribute in the future, Trevor brought up something that caught my attention. Trevor asked,
About the money we put in the joint wallet, is it okay if I contribute less than you?
Okay. I mean, could I possibly know the reason if you don't mind? Trevor seemed hesitant at first, but then opened up.
There's a promotion exam coming up at work, and I need to buy study materials for it. Plus, if I don't do overtime and go home on time, my salary will be less.
Oh, I see. Preparing for the promotion exam while working can indeed be tough. Understood. I'll support you in any way I can. Really? That's so like you, Heidi. Trevor was visibly delighted, clapping his hands. Well, it's an important exam for your career. I want to make sure you can give it your best. I remembered how mentally challenging my CPA exam was. Having quit my job to focus on studying, I could imagine how difficult it must be to study for an exam while working. Don't worry about the money. Just focus on preparing for the promotion exam, Trevor. Thank you. You're amazing, Heidi. So, when is the exam?
It's in 8 months. It's a bit away, but
even though it was a bit into the future, I reassured myself that focusing on studying was the right decision, seeing Trevor happy about it. However, right after we decided on these rules, Trevor's work habits changed significantly.
What? A business trip the day after tomorrow?
Suddenly, there were more work-related trips right after we decided how much to put into our joint wallet. Can't help it, it's a work order.
But you need to prepare for the upcoming promotion exam, right? And yet, you have to go on so many trips.
So what? You're saying I should disobey orders and not go on the trips? Trevor glared at me, seeming to lack his usual composure.
It's not that, just I'm worried.
Then don't butt in. It's crucial for me to show how hard I can work right now.
Got it. But don't push yourself too hard.
It's often said that men get tunnel vision when they're focused on work, and maybe Trevor is just like that. I've been with this company for a long time, but I want to expand my work even more in the future.
It would be great if you could do more. I'm supporting you.
Trevor seemed pleased, but I was oblivious to what was hiding behind that smile. Trevor started bringing work home. Therefore, I made sure to not disturb Trevor while he was focused on his work, living cautiously. It felt a bit constricting, but it was all for Trevor. Then, one quiet evening, the notification sound from a mobile phone echoed in the living room. Ah, that's Trevor's phone. Just as Trevor went to the bathroom during a work break, his phone started buzzing with notifications nonstop. If it was important work-related news, I had to let him know once he was back. As I casually picked up Trevor's phone, I felt a bit off. On the light blue background, an app with sparkly characters was displayed prominently. Trevor usually used his phone only for work-related matters, but this app didn't seem right for work communications. Could it be an app for meeting someone of the opposite sex? But now that we're married, he shouldn't need such an app. While I was pondering this, Trevor came back from the bathroom. Hey, my phone, hey!
Your phone kept ringing, so I thought I'd hand it to you. It might be important work stuff.
Hey, don't mess with it. He hastily grabbed the phone from my hand. The phone made a snapping sound as it passed to Trevor's hand. Sorry. But you didn't have to snatch it like that. Damn, meddling with stuff. I'm not openly married at work, so imagine if you suddenly answered my phone. While saying this, Trevor hurriedly checked his phone screen. Indeed, Trevor's company is so large that it's hard to keep track of who's married and who's not. Even just trying to hand over his mobile phone made Trevor so upset. Could it be that his work isn't going well? Trevor's mood often reflects how smoothly his work is progressing. So this might be the case again. Since the day Trevor showed his irritation, I've been more cautious around him, not wanting to be accused of causing his work issues. However, noticing my behavior, Trevor initiated a conversation. Trevor asked, "Hey, are you free after work this Thursday?"
I'll probably finish around 7 p.m., but is something up?
I was just thinking about how I was a bit harsh the other day. It's not exactly an apology, but how about we go out for a drink? Seeing Trevor's slightly awkward smile made me feel relieved inside. I immediately agreed. That sounds nice.
But it's rare for you to suggest going out for drinks lately. What brought this on?
As I playfully asked, Trevor, now relieved from tension, began to speak.
Don't say that. I just started working on a new client development and it went well. I wanted to share the joy with you, Heidi.
Oh, is that so? You've been looking so serious. I thought you were working on a difficult project, but I'm glad it went well.
Then, how about we meet at the usual station and head to the bar street from there?
Before we got married, we used to explore various places and enjoyed drinking together. Not only did we enjoy chatting without holding back, but we also loved finding the perfect pairings of drinks and appetizers. Lately, due to our busy schedules, we hadn't been able to explore new places, but this seemed like the perfect opportunity. The area around our meeting station changes so frequently, there might be some interesting new spots. I was looking forward to our date. On the day we agreed to meet, I finished work earlier than usual to not be late. I reminisced about how we used to bar hop around this area before we got married. I was looking forward to it while remembering that we always choose where to go based on our mood at the moment, valuing each unique experience.
Hey, over here. So, where shall we go today?
Walking side by side through the bustling streets, we noticed a bar with an interesting sign. It wasn't flashy, but each decoration seemed refined. The tiled decorations had intricate designs, exuding a sense of style. The sign with "Open" written on it listed delicious-sounding dishes and highlighted the bartender's recommendations. It appeared that today, they had a selection of the bartender's favorite drinks. Although it was my first time seeing it, something about it was inviting to drinkers.
Hey, how about we try this place tonight?
I felt a surge of excitement, discovering something new on a familiar path. What? You want to go here? Don't you want to look around more? There are plenty of other bars.
But this place has a variety of drinks and dishes. Plus, it's stylish. It might be nice to try something different for a change. Huh? Getting fancy all of a sudden? Have you lost your mind? It's so unlike you to start doing stuff like this. I can't keep up.
Though there was no absolute need to go to that specific bar, being outright rejected made me wonder if there was a reason behind it. I thought this place looked nice, but is there something wrong with it? When I asked, Trevor let out a sigh as if he had given up.
All right, as you wish.
Trevor's sulking demeanor caught my attention. Was my preference for this bar really that bad? I couldn't quite understand the recent shifts in Trevor's mood. Upon entering the bar, we saw a bartender and a female apprentice with a trainee badge standing beside the bar counter. The bartender glanced over briefly, leaving me with an uneasy feeling. Since it had just opened, there were no other customers. Almost as if we had the place to ourselves. We chose a table towards the back and spread out the food menu.
Let's start with some simple appetizers and maybe a beer?
Yeah. I closed the menu I was holding and placed our order using a tablet nearby.
Nowadays, even bars use tablets for ordering outside the counter. It's nice not having to call over a server.
Yeah. Trevor's response seemed somewhat distracted. The woman wearing a part-time job badge came over with the food and drinks we ordered. She glanced at my face and looked puzzled. Is there something on my face? Maybe it's because I came straight from work without a break, so I look utterly exhausted. For now, I took the dishes from the woman and placed them where they were easy to eat from. Every dish that came out looked delicious. Garlic shrimp, pickles, and steaming hot gratin. I couldn't decide which to eat first. In front of me and Trevor are ordered beers.
To celebrate Trevor's job success, cheers!
Trying to lift the mood, I raised my glass with a bit more enthusiasm than usual. Then, I promptly started on the food in front of me. I was famished since I had missed lunch due to a sudden work task during my break. With such appetizing dishes in front of me, it was impossible not to eat. Besides, I need to put something in my stomach, or else I'll get drunk too quickly on an empty stomach. I reached for the gratin closest to me. The hot white sauce and creamy cheese were unbelievably delicious, warming my chilled, tired body. I glanced at Trevor, who was sipping his beer little by little. Sipping a beer slowly isn't like Trevor. Plus, his gaze seemed to wander, somewhat lost. Aren't you going to eating? Did Trevor dislike gratin? While thinking this, I served myself another helping onto my plate.
If you're not eating, I'll have it. I missed lunch today, after all,
I said, laughing as I served the gratin, when I caught the eye of the part-time worker. The part-time worker was rotating her right ring finger on the palm of her left hand held up, as if needing something. Thinking about that odd gesture, I realized it might mean something. The movement of rotating the ring finger on the palm is a sign language gesture for medicine. She must be trying to convey a message to me by making sign language gestures that only I can see from this angle. Realizing the meaning behind her making sign language gestures visible only to me, I hurriedly put down the gratin I was holding, grabbed my phone, and headed to the restroom.
Excuse me, I need to use the restroom.
Sure. Are you feeling unwell?
No, I just need to go. Don't worry about me and keep eating.
Feeling weak in my legs, I thought it might be better not to stay in this bar any longer. Maybe I should just leave the store first. I decided to pretend to have work and slip out. I quickly returned from the restroom and spoke to Trevor. Sorry, I just got a call from work. I have to go.
Is that so? That's a shame.
Yeah, sorry. Will you keep drinking?
Maybe I will. It's been a while since I've gone out for drinks.
Pretending to go back to work, I decided to stay at a business hotel instead. What the woman at the bar wanted to convey in Trevor's expressions and gestures. Something feels off, and I can't shake the feeling that this isn't just my imagination. Thinking too much about it, I start playing with my phone to calm down. I haven't had much time to use my phone lately, but while checking the news, I noticed an ad that caught my eye. An ad for an app titled How to Meet Your Destiny, the same one installed on Trevor's phone. That time, his phone kept receiving notifications, and I thought it was work-related. I covered my mouth with both hands in shock. Why would a married person need to have such an app for making acquaintances? Moreover, I know that apps of this kind are all the rage right now, with new ones being released one after another in ads all over town. People looking to meet someone would likely use several apps. Given Trevor's efficiency-oriented nature, he would probably use several. It's hard to believe he would only have one app downloaded. Feeling uneasy, I decided to thoroughly investigate Trevor's phone. I found out he had many apps. I only saw it for a moment, but it felt like one of those apps was on Trevor's phone. Had he forgotten to delete something he used before we got married? Trevor is meticulous and detail-oriented, so it's hard to imagine him leaving unused apps just lying around. I decided to download and register for the app that seemed to be the same one Trevor was using. The light blue app that flashed on Trevor's phone for a moment. I registered my name and a simple profile and started using it right away. Discovering Trevor was using the app meant I might be able to unveil his true identity. I told Trevor I had to stay overnight at a business hotel due to unfinished work and would go straight to work from there, then set my plan in motion. The next day, I took a paid leave and ventured out into the city from the hotel. I bought a brown long-haired wig and a hat and registered the profile picture. I crafted a profile that wouldn't be recognized as me and immediately started searching for a match. Narrowing down by area of residence, age, and hobbies, the number of potential matches decreased. When I entered the name of a niche game Trevor likes, the number narrowed down significantly, making it easier to search. Though I doubted it, I found a profile that seemed to be Trevor's and matched with him surprisingly easily. I exchanged messages with Trevor without letting him discover it was me. In the app, Trevor mentioned he was single, worked for a certain company, and enjoyed playing soccer with friends and barbecuing on his days off. Of course, it didn't seem like he realized he was talking to me. Confirming Trevor was using the app to seek encounters, I moved on to the next strategy. On Friday night, after returning home, I placed a lost item finder tag in the car we both use. Just to be sure, I also put it in the pocket of a cardigan left in the car. Then, I returned home as if nothing was amiss. Given Trevor's extensive use of dating apps, it's likely he wasn't just talking to one person.
I'm home. Work was brutal after I left you. Do you have any plans for this weekend, Trevor?
I have to work outside, so it looks like I won't get the weekend off.
Is that so? That's tough. I was thinking of going shopping since there's a sale, but I'll go alone then.
Okay. Have a good time. I watched Trevor head to the shower with his phone in hand. I already knew Trevor had been looking up tourist spots in the neighboring town on our home computer. From cruise ship schedules to delicious bakeries, parks with night views, and hotels, it was clear as day. And to top it off, search histories like main squeeze present and fifth date proposal lines indicated he probably saw the woman he was planning to date as the one. I decided to make my move the next weekend.
Well, I'm off to work. Man, working even on a weekend sucks.
Yeah, really. Have a good day. After seeing Trevor leave by car, I set out to catch him in the act of cheating. I booked a room in the hotel Trevor had researched and first monitored his movements from there. The movement of the lost item finder tag indicated he really was heading to the neighboring town. I watched the pin move to the ferry dock, a trendy cafe, and then planned to confront him at the park with a night view. Assuming he'd park near the park to enjoy the night view, I went there as the sun was setting to scout the area. Then, a familiar car entered the parking lot. Descending from our car were Trevor and an unfamiliar woman. Trevor had his arm around the woman, escorting her to a spot with a good view of the night scene. After watching Trevor and the woman walk away from the car, I slipped into the back seat. Crouching under the seat, I waited for them to return. Satisfied with the night view, the two returned.
It was truly beautiful. Thinking I'll spend an enchanting night with you makes my heart flutter,
Trevor said as he sat in the driver's seat, with the woman presumed to be his affair partner in the passenger seat. I stood up from the back seat and wrapped my arms around Trevor from behind.
Hey, what's this about?
Trevor turned around with a look that seemed to say he was caught.
No, this is not what you think. Proposing on the fifth date to your main squeeze, planning an attack at a park with a night view. Did you think your affair would go smoothly?
Trevor's face drained of color, illuminated by the dim car interior. His face, unnaturally pale in the darkness, was eerily more frightening than any ghost.
How could you deceive me and pursue an affair? And you drugged me at the bar, didn't you? In cahoots with the bartender. What? How could you know?
Trevor was still flustered.
Why? Want to know?
As he fell silent all of a sudden, it was clear he was out of his depth.
The way things were at the bar we went to together was strange. I looked up the bar's reviews, and there were several cases of people getting terribly drunk, all of them women. I thought that was odd. So what?
Trevor still seemed not to understand the situation he was in, responding defiantly.
That bartender at the bar, is he a bad friend of yours? Someone who uses dishonest means to take advantage of others. After that, I spoke with a woman who works at the bar again, and she told me about the women you've brought there. Women I brought? Yes. Every time it's a different woman, and all of them end up so drunk they can barely walk. They say women get drunk faster than men, but isn't it strange to get so drunk at a bar that you can't walk?
Then, Trevor had nothing to say, biting his lip as if admitting defeat.
The woman working there thought it was just her imagination at first, but even she began to find it suspicious. That's why she secretly told me. Just because someone I was drinking with got wobbly, you're suspecting me?
I couldn't help but feel dismayed by Trevor's passive attitude towards the predicament. I took out a pen. It was a pen I had secretly placed in Trevor's bag, equipped with a recording function.
Actually, this is a pen with a recording feature. I turned it on, so it recorded what you were talking about at the bar. You understand what this means, right?
At that, Trevor turned pale. It was a paleness I had never seen on him before. Without hesitation, I pressed the play button. The recording clearly captured him expressing gratitude for adding something to the food ordered alongside drinks to make one more susceptible to alcohol.
I can't believe you would do something like this.
Then, Trevor, probably feeling cornered by my words, exploded in anger.
You should be grateful I even married a leftover like you. And yet you're sneaking around like a detective.
As he spoke, Trevor angrily threw his bag onto the ground. A woman nearby glared at me, hurling unbelievable accusations.
You're the one binding Trevor, aren't you? That's why he hates you. Because you do these underhanded things. Melanie would never do something like this.
It was clear that Melanie, the woman claiming so, was Trevor's affair partner. She was clinging to him like a lover, and whined like a spoiled puppy.
I knew he was married, but I'm more suitable for him. Any other woman he's with, it's just for fun, right? I'm the one who will be happy with Trevor. Suitable, you say? He works for a manufacturer and is about to get promoted. He said he'd be fine with me becoming a housewife then. He'll be the perfect husband.
She seemed like an adult, but internally, she was running headlong without thinking, like a fantasy dreamer.
The man you're so eager to marry is about to be fired. It's funny to think your future husband will be jobless.
Melanie looked shocked at first, but then started making a fuss.
That's a lie. Trevor getting fired? As much as you're hurt by being cheated on, that's too much, isn't it?
I showed them a printout.
I had to contact his company for something before. It seems he lied about business trips to have unlimited overnight dates with this woman.
The printout I held had evidence of false reports, including non-existent business trip receipts.
The company was surprised by his work ethic and said they'd terminate his contract immediately. Contract termination? What do you mean? He was about to become an assistant manager.
I couldn't help but laugh.
So he told you that, huh? You didn't know he was a contract employee?
Melanie looked bewildered, unsure of what to believe.
I don't see what's so great about a non-regular employee who drugs women to fulfill his desires, but if you're happy with that, be my guest. No, thanks. I have no use for a man who's about to be fired.
As she said this and tried to step out of the car, I swiftly tripped her, causing her to fall dramatically. Due to the force of her fall, Melanie hit the ground face first.
What the heck? What's your problem? You knew he was married and still went for an affair, trying to steal him away. You were prepared for the high cost of infidelity, right?
This time, Melanie's face suddenly turned pale.
What? I'm just a girl, and I can't afford to pay any compensation in a divorce trial. I don't have that kind of money. To say at your age that you're a girl and don't have money is embarrassing. Besides, being broke is undoubtedly your own fault. It's a lack of ability.
Hey, there's no need to say that much. Trevor wrapped his arm around Melanie, as if to protect her.
I've had enough of your farcical drama. A woman fully intending to steal a married man, and a man eager to intoxicate others for his desires, you're perfect for each other.
I started walking away from Trevor and Melanie.
I'm a girl, so of course, I can't pay. Trevor will take care of everything, right? Hey, come on, it's all about equality between men and women these days, right? No men should or women should. Take care of your own part. How cruel! So you're betraying me now.
I thought I could hear the two of them arguing behind me. It was surprising to hear the word betray from Melanie. But such things no longer had anything to do with me. I went home, took only what I needed, and left. Trevor called many times, wanting to reconcile, but I ignored all of them. Once, I answered a call from an unknown number, thinking it was someone else, but it was Trevor.
Please, anything but divorce. Are you in any position to say you don't want a divorce? But if we divorce now, I won't be able to live. Wait until I find another job.
I sighed deeply.
Support you until you find a new job? Impossible. Why don't you cry to your affair partner?
Then Trevor yelled back.
I can't do something so pathetic.
But I wasn't the type to be intimidated by such things.
Pathetic? Who was it that did such a pathetic thing to me without any remorse?
Then Trevor fell silent.
Anyway, we'll communicate through lawyers from now on.
Through the lawyer, I managed to claim compensation in the divorce trial. Though Trevor had no job due to his contract termination, his parents ended up paying on his behalf. Now, he's apparently working as a construction worker, toiled from morning till night. Due to his nasty attitude and snarky tone, he's caught the negative attention of his seniors. As for Melanie, it seems she was fired from her job for having an affair at work. This was according to someone I know who worked at the same company as Melanie, who said she kept insisting she wasn't in the wrong until the very end. Since then, I've officially divorced Trevor and am thoroughly enjoying my life alone. Both my work and personal life are going well, and divorcing Trevor has truly made me happy. Lately, as I've been working as a CPA, more people have been involved, and many have told me they're glad they asked for my help. Hearing that makes me feel good about the work I've done. Marrying Trevor might have been a mistake, but I don't regret it because it taught me to choose my own life. By the way, I ran into the woman who was apprenticing at that bar at a food court in a shopping center, and we hit it off. That encounter led to us occasionally going out for tea. It was memorable when she told me how happy she was to use the sign language she learned in a sign language club in this way. She didn't know I was Trevor's wife at first, and that story still serves as a funny anecdote between us. Now, let's consider it good that I can live my life without any troubles. My daughter Emma was getting married, and we were off to a family meeting. When we entered the designated room, Phil Henry and Mil Lauren were already seated. They looked like they were in the middle of a conversation, smirking unpleasantly. Looking at the table, I noticed that only 3 settings were prepared on our side. I realized this was their sly way of harassing us. "Please, take a seat." "Oh, just the 2 of you?" "We're a single-mother household," I replied, lifting the corners of my eyes, trying to stay calm. But Lauren let out a mocking laugh. "Oh, that's right. Maybe you should take this in a food storage container? Single mothers are poor, right?" Lauren covered her mouth, trying to suppress her laughter. Despite her harsh words, I kept my expression unchanged. Seeing enough, Emma tapped my shoulder. "That's awful. Mom, let's go." "Why leave?" "If it means you, who've sacrificed everything for me, have to suffer, I'd rather not get married." Touched by Emma's kindness, I smiled. "It's okay. Just wait a bit." Then, an employee came from behind with a food storage container. "Here, please take this home," he offered to Lauren. Henry and Lauren were taken aback, stunned. "If being poor is about low income, please, take it." "Huh?" "My name is Rachel. In my 50s, I feel like I've reached the midpoint of my life, living in a slightly spacious single-family home with my daughter, Emma. When Emma is at school, I sometimes feel a pang of loneliness in the quiet of our living room. That's when I make it a ritual to prepare 2 mugs of tea, one for me and the other for my late husband, Nathan. Pouring tea for Nathan and imagining he might be with me brings comfort. Nathan was diagnosed with cancer about 20 years ago and passed away suddenly as we were about to start his treatment. On his deathbed, he implored me to take care of Emma. She must become someone admirable. At that time, Emma was too young to remember much about her dad. To fulfill my promise to Nathan and to prevent Emma from feeling lonely or sad, I raised her single-handedly, balancing work, household duties, and parenting. Despite being a single mother, I managed to send Emma to college. Emma grew up to be academically excellent, beautiful, and a genuinely kind and wonderful woman. She's my pride and joy. After graduating, she got a job and started living on her own. I can't always rely on you, Mom. It's time I do something in return for what you've done for me. Don't worry about me, just do your best. Eat properly, don't stay up too late, and... Come on, I'm not a child anymore. What are you saying? You'll always be my precious child. The night before she moved out, Emma and I stayed up late, talking about the past, the future, and about her dad. We never ran out of memories to share, losing track of time. Even after Emma started living by herself, she would send various texts to my mobile phone. She would complain about unpacking, cooking, training at work, and colleagues. Each text made me feel as if Emma was right beside me, probably feeling lonely in her new life. But as time passed, the texts became less frequent. I assumed that Emma was finding her own way. I guess Emma is doing well. The lack of texts seemed to prove that Emma's days were fulfilling. And even the tea I brewed for Nathan seemed to nod in agreement. A year and a half after Emma started her job, I received a call from her. She sounded happy. "It's been a while," she said. "Mom, there's someone I want you to meet next Sunday." Do you have some time?
Oh, it's been a while. Yes, I do have some time on Sunday.
Then, I'll come home on Sunday. Is noon okay?
Yes, that's fine. Be careful coming here.
It's been a while since I've seen you. You'll be surprised. Bye.
After saying that, Emma hung up, and I stared silently at the screen. I wondered how long it had been since we last talked on the phone. Her unusually happy tone over the phone intrigued me, but when Sunday came, I was indeed surprised, just as Emma had said. At the door was Emma and a young man named Ryan. Ryan was not dressed casually, but in a casual suit, looking slightly nervous. Nice to meet you. I'm Ryan, and I've been seeing Emma for a while now. Ryan, who introduced himself, was tall with features like a movie star, and came off as a very polite and good young man. Nice to meet you. Please, come in. After inviting them into the living room and making tea, we sat at the table where Emma gave an update and introduced him. Then, Emma said shyly, "So, Mom, the reason I wanted you to meet him is because we are thinking about getting married." Married? Though I had anticipated it, the fact that Emma had found someone still surprised me internally. I kept my composure, looking at Ryan, who now had a more serious expression. Yes. I proposed to Emma recently, and I wanted to meet you, her mom. I paused for a moment before responding, and I said, I see. I didn't know Emma has been seeing someone as wonderful as you. Ryan, Emma doesn't have a dad, and I raised her by myself. Yes, Emma told me she grew up in a household without a father. Emma is my treasure, my precious daughter. Can you promise to protect her and make her happy? Of course. I am confident that I can make Emma happier than anyone else in this world. Ryan answered firmly, without flinching at my stern attitude. Had he hesitated, I might not have approved of their marriage. All right. Please take good care of Emma. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other, relieved, and smiled happily. Seeing them like this made me smile too. I think Nathan would have smiled in the same way if he were here. Months after sending off a happy Emma and Ryan, Emma took a long break and came home. She happily talked about her work and Ryan, but occasionally she looked troubled. When asked, she'd quickly change the subject, saying, "It's nothing, Mom." Whenever Emma wants to talk about something or lies, she shrugs her shoulders. This time, Emma did it again, so I was sure something had happened. Hey, Emma. How about we try that new place? It's a brand new cafe here. I showed her the screen of my mobile phone. Her eyes lit up at the sight of the cafe. I wanted to go there. The coffee is popular, everyone at work says it's good. Then it's settled. The next day, Emma and I walked to the cafe. After ordering coffee to go, we walked for a while. Mom, thank you for accepting my marriage with Ryan. He seems sincere. Take good care of each other, Emma. When we reached a large park, Emma started to talk. Actually, I went to the in-laws' house. I feel like I'm not well liked by them. Emma's story went back a month. When she visited the in-laws' house, Henry and Lauren seemed skeptical at first glance. Nice to meet you, I'm Emma. I'm dating Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Are you sure about her? Lauren interrupted Emma's greeting. What do you mean? Well, she looks rather plain, doesn't she? Her clothes, her makeup, it all screams poverty. She doesn't match you at all. Without a word of congratulations, they blatantly insulted Emma. Mom, that's rude. You shouldn't talk about my girlfriend like that. Don't you think so too? Lauren sought agreement from Henry, who was sitting next to her,
and Henry nodded in affirmation. Ah. Is your family that poor? Do your parents work?
My mom works, and my dad passed away when I was young. Single mother, huh? I figured as much,
Henry said with a strangely satisfied look and scoffed.
Dad? It must be for the money. We come from a respectable family. You should stay away from a woman like that. How can you say that? Emma is not like that. I know her best. Ryan just doesn't realize yet that there are many who would want to marry you for our assets.
And then, he even suggested introducing Ryan to a daughter of an acquaintance. Lauren agreed with this proposal, pleased with the idea.
That would be better. After all, we know someone respectable who works for a major company. Not a match for a single mother's family. Don't you think so, Ryan?
Seeing Lauren happily agree, Ryan raised his voice.
Enough from both of you, Dad and Mom.
The conversation went nowhere, and Ryan and Emma left the house. Ryan later told me that Henry and Lauren have a strong sense of elitism.
Emma, I'm really sorry. My parents said such awful things and hurt you.
Emma was apologized to multiple times by Ryan, who promised to always protect her. Sitting on a park bench listening to this, I had to suppress my anger from exploding.
So, what do Ryan's parents say about the marriage?
Last week, we went to their house again.
We faced some snide remarks, but Ryan convinced them, and they agreed to our marriage.
Are you okay with that, Emma? Emma bit her lip and shrugged.
Yeah, it's okay. We won't be living with them, and I can endure it.
Is that so? It was clear that the relationship between Ryan's parents and Emma was strained. Even with Ryan's protection, there would be limits. Knowing they would face hardships, I wished I could advise them to reconsider the marriage. But having already given my blessing, I couldn't say that. Even in this short time, Emma looked downcast. Thinking she might always look this way saddened me.
So, about the family meeting, I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't go.
Why?
If it's going to make you feel bad, Mom, I don't want to have the family meeting.
Emma's eyes seemed to well up, even though she didn't cry. She was considering my feelings. Touched by her kindness, I smiled.
Don't worry about me. Let's have the family meeting so that everyone can acknowledge your marriage.
Under the cold sky, Emma and I sipped our cooled coffee on our way home. When Emma told Ryan she wanted to have the family meeting, he was very surprised. And he kept worrying about her, saying,
"You don't have to push yourself.
I'm fine.
Mom says not to worry. If you say so, I'll talk to my parents about it."
And so, on the day, Emma and I went to the venue. Though we didn't say anything to each other, I decided to stand tall and face them with confidence. We took a cab to the hotel, and both Emma and I took a deep breath at the entrance. But Emma looked anxious. When Lauren specified this hotel, she made a snide remark.
"It's that famous hotel you see in commercials. A place your family wouldn't be familiar with."
Emma took it to heart and became completely intimidated by the unnecessary comment. I gently pulled Emma closer by the shoulder, signaling with my eyes that everything would be okay, and we started walking together. We ran into Ryan at the entrance. He seemed to have arrived earlier and was waiting for the elevator.
"Thank you, Emma and Rachel, for having time today."
Ryan appeared much more nervous than the last time we met, sweating on his forehead despite it being winter.
"No, thank you. We have been looking forward to today." You might have heard from Emma, but this hotel is where my dad works."
Ryan seemed uneasy and worried about his parents possibly saying something offensive, given their behavior in front of Emma. I responded confidently,
"Yes, I'm aware.
No need to worry." Ryan, you look better when you're confident. As Ryan looked up, the elevator doors opened, and we stepped in, riding up to the higher floor. Upon entering the room, Henry and Lauren were already seated, seemingly in the middle of a conversation, smiling creepily. Noticing that 3 sets of tableware were prepared on our side, I realized it was their sly form of harassment. "Ah, we've been waiting for you. Please, have a seat." "Oh, just the 2 of you?"
We're a single-mother household,
I replied, lifting the corners of my eyes, trying to remain calm. But Lauren let out a mocking laugh.
"That's right. Maybe you should take this in a food storage container? Since you're poor." "Huh? Single mothers are poor with low income, right?" "That's right. The income of a single mother is predictably low."
Lauren covered her mouth, trying to hold back her laughter. Despite their harsh words, I remained expressionless. Unable to stand it, Ryan cried out,
"Dad, Mom, stop it. This is too disrespectful."
At that moment, Emma tapped my shoulder.
"That's awful. Mom, let's go."
"Why?"
"If having me means you suffer, Mom, I'd rather not get married."
Hearing this, Ryan turned around in surprise.
"Emma."
While watching them, I clearly said,
"It's not necessary. Just wait a moment."
Then, an employee came from behind with a food storage container.
"Here, please take this home,"
he offered to Lauren. Henry and Lauren were taken aback, stunned.
"If being poor is about low income, please, take it." "Huh? At least Rachel is far from poor,"
I firmly stated, and the employee, with efficient movements, placed the container down and stepped back, leaving Henry and Lauren outraged.
"Is this some kind of disrespect? That's it. You're fired. Both of you, please calm down. She's been a friend of mine since childhood. The rudeness is on your part."
The employee turned back to me, smiled briefly, and said,
"The division manager always seems so busy." "Division manager?"
Lauren and Henry gasped, tumbling out of their chairs like in a cartoon. Henry was sweating not just on his forehead but all over his face. Though it wasn't my intention to hide it, I am the daughter of the president of the group company that owns this famous hotel. I've worked for this company for many years, continuing even after getting married without resigning. When I was pregnant with Emma, I took the same maternity leave as other employees and raised Emma while working in Nathan's stead. By the time Emma entered college, my efforts were recognized, and I was promoted to division manager, unbeknownst to Henry and Lauren.
"Are both of you okay?"
I addressed Henry and Lauren with a composed voice as they lay sprawled on the floor.
"Today, we came here for the family meeting regarding the marriage of my precious daughter and Ryan. It seems you have had quite a bit to say to my daughter."
I glared at them, causing Henry and Lauren to tremble and shrink back.
"I've worked hard to provide love and education for Emma since her father, my husband, died from illness when she was young."
Ryan swallowed hard.
"I believe in Emma, and I trust the person she has chosen. Even if he comes from parents who judge people by their income and are rude, I see Ryan as a polite and respectable young man, an important new member of our family."
I paused for a moment before continuing.
"I would think you feel the same about your children. So, I ask again, do you approve of my daughter's marriage to Ryan?"
The room fell silent, with Henry and Lauren trembling, and Ryan looking nervous. Emma had never seen me take such a stance before.
"How about it?"
I pressed again, and Lauren, looking frustrated, glanced at Henry. Henry, pale-faced and flustered, hurriedly said,
"Of course. Director, we hope for a closer relationship from now on. Today, I am here not as a director but as Emma's mother,"
I stated firmly, looking at Henry.
And if we're talking about work, isn't it true that Henry will soon be leaving here?
What do you mean? I had investigated Henry's reputation within the company up until today. Knowing Emma's dad was Henry, I remembered his name. His condescending attitude towards Emma and his notorious behavior among hotel staff were well known. Henry was infamous for his high-handed behavior towards subordinates and was reported to be avoiding work under the guise of attending meetings. A hearing had been scheduled to address these issues.
So, that's what it is. You should reflect on your actions.
I left Henry speechless with my rebuke. Lauren stood up, face red, and lunged at me with a screech. However, I dodged, and she fell over. To the fallen Lauren, I delivered my final statement.
And know this, if you ever interfere with Emma and Ryan's happiness again, I will not remain silent.
With that, I firmly addressed the two, then led Emma and Ryan out of the room. Of course, I left the follow-up to the employee who has been a friend since childhood. Half a year has passed. The heat is relentless for someone in their 50s like me. The weather forecast predicts another scorcher today. As I walked to the supermarket, I thought back on the events. After the family meeting, Ryan apologized to Emma and me numerous times.
I'm really sorry for my parents' rude behavior.
It's okay. We've seen your sincerity.
I'm truly ashamed. I don't want to associate with parents like that anymore.
But they're the ones who raised you, right?
No, it was my uncle who raised me. My parents left me with him until I was a college student.
I had secretly wondered why Ryan's demeanor was so different from Henry and Lauren's arrogance. Understanding it was his uncle who raised him made sense. Ryan recently cut ties with Henry and Lauren after they approached him for money. Following the family meeting, Lauren called in a panic.
Ryan, your dad lost his job. He was subjected to an internal hearing for negligence, making no sense at all.
Ryan responded indifferently.
That's tough. What do you mean, acting like it's none of your business? We're struggling without money, send us some. Mom, I heard about your spending habits from my uncle. You have a problem with wastefulness. What are you talking about? Maybe if you stopped wasting money, you'd have enough to live on. Don't rely on me. Such unnecessary talk.
Then again, there were several calls, and Lauren had run through her savings due to her spending habits, even going as far as to say that Henry's retirement allowance was running out. Struggling to make ends meet, Henry and Lauren did not just ask for money but also reached out to me, wanting me to connect them over the phone. Morning, noon, or night, they didn't care when they called, which finally seemed to make Ryan explode in anger.
Dad and Mom, please, enough. I don't want to trouble Emma or Rachel either.
With that, he hung up the call and set Henry and Lauren's number to be blocked. Not stopping there, Ryan changed his mobile phone number and moved to a new apartment with Emma, changing their address. Of course, this was not communicated to Henry and Lauren, who remained unaware of Ryan and Emma's whereabouts afterward. Nothing stood in the way of their happy married life anymore. From what I've heard from Emma, they have been living peacefully since then. As for me, I've managed to maintain a good relationship with them, dining out with Emma and Ryan monthly. This incident made me realize a huge misunderstanding on my part. While I worked hard, thinking I was doing my best not to trouble Emma and raised her, I had completely stopped going on trips, which was my hobby. It seems Emma believed she was the reason I gave up my hobby, thinking my sacrifices were because of her. The efforts I made to spare Emma any hardship or worry ended up worrying her instead. From now on, don't worry about me.
I want you to use your time and money for yourself.
Until Emma told me this, I was enjoying living by myself at home, but afterwards, I started traveling more on weekends. As someone who loved domestic trips, I began visiting places I had wanted to go and places that held dear memories. And strangely, working hard daily made me feel it was okay to spend money and time for myself. Moreover, exploring the latest hotels started to benefit my work. Projects and such began to progress more smoothly, bringing me luck. As I thought of Emma's influence, I finished paying for my shopping and left the store. Today's shopping was for groceries to cook dinner together with the three of us. Glancing up, I saw Emma approaching from the opposite direction. "Mom, are you okay?" "Don't strain yourself, let me carry that for you." Emma hurried over and effortlessly took the bag from my right hand. "Oh, thank you. Shall we go then?" "Yes. Ryan said he'd come over as soon as he's done with work. He's looking forward to your chicken dish," Emma said with a smile. "We'll need to make plenty then." Recently, we received wonderful news that Emma is pregnant. Ryan, Emma, and of course, I were all delighted. I'm planning a surprise for Emma and Ryan, looking forward to sending clothes and toys for the grandchild, though it's a secret from them. While I wonder if it's too early, I know before long, the child will be born. Though this new life has just been conceived, I'm already eagerly anticipating the day I can meet them.
Dropping out and living off a pension, isn't that just like a dead weight who doesn't understand the struggles of the young? Caught in a fire and still not a bit spirited. Really, society's dead weight lives the longest, huh?
Tiana, my eldest son's wife, said this laughing, without a hint of malice. It was the last straw for me. Don't think getting disowned is the end of it. Divine retribution will come one day. Just you wait. My name is Violet, I'm 75. When did it start? The words I mutter when I get moving became, "Here we go." Ouch. Sometimes, I say them even when I'm not in pain. Back when my body issues were fewer than now, and I had just turned 60. A shocking piece of news landed between my recently retired husband, Cody, and me. Our eldest son, Ethan, not particularly bright and with kindness as his only trait, was getting married. Ethan wanted a family meeting, and Cody and I joyfully agreed. Who could have chosen our unremarkable Ethan? On the day of the meeting, Tiana, a well-dressed woman, appeared at our house. Not especially beautiful or flashy. But her behavior was elegant and refined, perhaps due to good upbringing, leaving Cody and me speechless. "You didn't just bring some secretary pretending to be your girlfriend, did you?" I couldn't help but ask Ethan. But as we listened to them, her background became clear. She was the daughter of a chain of Italian restaurants. With two older brothers, she wasn't expected to take over the family business. But if something happened to her brothers, Ethan might have to step in. I wondered if Ethan could handle such a responsibility, but the warm atmosphere between him and Tiana made it seem possible. They were more in love than I imagined. We approved their marriage, and they wed. Everything seemed perfect. Then one day, Tiana called. "Oh, Tiana, what's up? Calling so suddenly?"
Violet. I heard from Ethan yesterday. Is it true that Cody dropped out?"
"Yes, that's right. He was the youngest, and our parents couldn't afford to send him to school." "Why do you ask?" Dropping out was common and not unusual. And Ethan's parents' education had nothing to do with his marriage. I optimistically failed to understand the intention behind her question.
"And you're not working now, right?"
"Just retired. Enjoying a leisurely pension life." I replied with a laugh, but the air over the phone turned heavy.
"Tiana, something wrong?" I'm a bit confused. So, you're saying he never really accomplished anything in society and now just lives off a pension?
What? Both Cody and I had worked and paid taxes. I didn't know if we contributed to society, but we hadn't been a burden. I didn't understand her point, but I felt looked down upon. Finally, that day, she said,
"Let me think about this,"
and hung up. Wondering if I should tell Ethan about this, I consulted with Cody.
Tiana's intentions aren't clear, and it might be a misunderstanding. Let's wait and see.
That's what happened. 2 months later, Ethan and Tiana visited us during a long vacation. I hoped that Tiana had misunderstood something about the dropout issue. For their visit, I prepared seasonal ingredients and fancy seafood. But, what's this? Tiana, who came to help in the kitchen, looked at the ingredients and got furious. There were no known allergies, and serving shrimp and crab wasn't unusual. I had no idea why she was so angry.
Who decided to have a meal like this?
Well, it was Cody.
He did it because you guys were coming over. He is on a pension, right? Living comfortably off the big taxes we worked hard to pay. Please don't indulge in luxuries like everyone else. Hey! That's no way to talk. We don't even indulge in luxuries normally, and we've been paying into our pension all this time. That's the problem with you people. You benefit from everything, from healthcare to pensions, while young people like us work hard, knowing our future pensions will be almost non-existent. If you have money for luxuries, donate it to the younger generation.
While I stood there dumbfounded, she sighed again.
In my family, my parents and brothers all went to college, studied hard, and provide dedicated service to society and our customers every day. And they earn well, of course. Cody, he worked in a factory, right? Didn't study much and settled for low wages, just moving his body around, and his future was secured. How nice. We work hard but never feel it's enough for our efforts.
I couldn't tell if we were indeed better off than Tiana's family unless I compared our incomes. But, regardless, it wasn't fair for her to say all this. Does she even understand how the pension system works? I wondered. If you have so many complaints, then leave. I was about to say that when.
What's all this noise about?
Cody, who should have been at the grocery store with Ethan, appeared from behind.
Cody.
Tears welled up in my eyes, maybe because of the harsh words thrown at him. He had always worked hard for our family. He even gave up school for us. He's a respectable man who's been working tirelessly for us. He doesn't deserve to be looked down on like this.
Cody, can you please stop living so luxuriously? Huh?
With a haughty attitude and arms crossed, Tiana glared at him. This woman, she's still mocking Cody.
If you're living off a pension, please lead a modest life or save for your demise. We don't want our hard-earned money going to people like you.
Tiana, what's wrong?
I'm not living luxuriously or anything. No. Just preparing all these fine ingredients is a nuisance. We can afford this with our own money.
It's not like they're high-end ingredients. I just thought it'd be nice for today. If you're feeling uncomfortable.
That's not it. It makes me sick that people like you, who never studied properly and just continued a fool's job, live off pensions and eat like this.
I thought to myself, factory work varies, and without people manufacturing, you wouldn't have the car you came in. But I stayed silent. Nothing I said would get through to her. But Cody reacted differently.
I tried to be understanding because you're Ethan's wife, but this is too much.
I paled, realizing he was angry. He rarely gets angry, maybe once in every 8 years, more rarely than the Olympics. If he exploded now, Tiana would be in trouble. That's when it happened. From the back room, I heard an explosion and the sound of something collapsing.
Dad, Mom, Tiana. There's a fire in the back. Get out quick!
Guided by Ethan, who rushed and drenched with water, we managed to escape the house without harm. Exhausted, we all watched our home engulfed in flames.
It's good that everyone's safe.
Ethan muttered.
Yes.
I replied. It seemed like an electrical fault in the neighbor's house had caused the fire, which spread to ours. Almost everything except the second floor was burned, and the house was unlivable.
What a long vacation this turned out to be. What do we do now?
Cody mused.
Yes.
Watching us, Tiana said.
We're not going to take care of you.
We, who had not even thought of asking for such a thing, exchanged glances in surprise. What is this kid talking about?
When times like this come, isn't it like this? You old folks living on pensions don't have money, so you say, you're the eldest son, so you should take us in, right? I read it on the internet.
You wouldn't say something like that, would you, Cody?
Of course not. I wouldn't bother Tiana or Ethan with such things.
Cody, calmed by the fire and now exhausted, nodded. Ethan watched our exchange with a solemn expression. I was afraid to ask what he thought.
Just so you know, don't try to get closer to us just because our house burned down. Tiana, what's gotten into you? We never said we'd do anything like that.
Cody continued.
That's right.
He agreed with my words. It seemed like the anger was flaring up again.
People with no brains can't imagine what others might think. After all, how can you, living on pensions, rebuild your lives with no education?
Tiana laughed mockingly. I couldn't deny it. I wasn't sure about the cost of house repairs, and how much would the fire insurance cover. I had just heard that if it's a fire spread from somewhere else, suing the responsible party isn't an option. Beyond education, there aren't many places a 60-year-old can work.
Violet, you're just a high school graduate, but dropout Cody will just be a burden to you.
Tiana said this with a smile, seemingly without any malice. Anger welled up inside me.
You're still lively despite being caught in a fire. Society's burdens live the longest.
Before Cody could grab Tiana by the collar in response to her words, my slap should have exploded. But my slap didn't hit Tiana, it struck Ethan's left cheek.
Ethan! Why are you defending her? You're making a mockery of Dad.
Cody restrained me as I cried out, and Ethan stepped forward as if to shield Tiana.
I'm sorry,
Ethan muttered, looking down.
Does marrying mean your wife is more important? Are we, your family, nothing to you?
It's not like that. But I love her too, so whether she's wrong or right, I can't choose. My dear Ethan, whose only good trait was his kindness, had become merely indecisive. I had carried and raised Ethan with care. I understood his feelings. I would have liked to support his kind heart if possible. But I just couldn't get along with Tiana anymore.
That's enough. Dad and I will cut ties with her. We won't see you either.
I couldn't bring myself to say cut ties with Ethan too. My weakness was apparent. I might be called pathetic, but I just couldn't bear to easily sever ties with Ethan. I never imagined spending the last years of my life like this. My body trembled, whether from fear, anxiety, or the excitement of my outburst. And so, my husband and I, and Ethan and his wife, started walking separate paths. 10 years later, after various circumstances, we were living with Cedric, our second son, and his wife. 2 days after the fire, when Cedric was supposed to visit, I contacted him. "Why don't you live with us?" He said it so casually, and we've been living together ever since. Cedric's wife, Caddy, had been unwell since giving birth and struggled with household chores. Then came our house fire. It goes without saying that Cedric's suggestion to live with us had an ulterior motive. But in exchange for doing household chores, living rent-free was a good deal for us. Even if the household chores meant playing with the grandchildren or cooking, being able to see them grow up every day was a reward for us. We shared household duties with Caddy, and we took over entirely when she felt unwell, so there was no inconvenience at all. Living with us might actually be easier for them than when it was just the two of us. I never really minded or felt dissatisfied, but Cody isn't much of a housekeeper. After cutting ties with Tiana and leaving our burnt house, I felt a daily happiness, as if the words disposal of unnecessary items, huge success, were floating in my head. Then, one day, after finishing dinner and about to serve cookies I made with my grandchildren, the doorbell rang. "Hello?" Caddy answered in her usual manner.
"Help!"
And from the monitor came a voice. Those grave words made us brace for some emergency.
Tiana?
Caddy looked bewildered, alternating glances between the monitor and us.
Eh?
Tiana? I couldn't believe it and looked at the monitor, where Ethan and his wife stood. What are you doing here? I couldn't help but ask.
Please, we apologize for everything in the past. Just help our company.
The sight of Ethan and his wife asking for help through the monitor caught even me off guard. Worried the neighbors might think oddly of Cedric's family, I hurriedly opened the door.
What's this all about? Why so sudden?
I ask. Behind me stood Cody, and a little further back, Cedric watched us with concern, protecting his children and Caddy.
Our family business is about to go bankrupt. The family business, United Capital Holdings? You've expanded since your marriage, it should be fine, right?
Indeed, her family business had grown rapidly since their marriage, now a respectable corporation. I knew from the newspapers a few years back that Ethan had joined the management, following her grandfather's wish to keep it family-operated. But at this moment, I pretended not to know. Although I was fully aware of their imminent bankruptcy and its reasons. Of course. They had to come to our house, and I could barely suppress a laugh. No. I mustn't laugh.
I can't divulge details, but expanding so much has backfired. Can you help us without asking anything? Let me guess, you hired manager candidates thinking anyone would be fine as long as they were college graduates, and they did whatever they wanted? I know all about it.
Cody was the one who reacted to her words. Like me, he, who knew everything, couldn't completely hide his amusement.
So you knew, Mr. Gourmet Iron Man.
Tiana said, looking dejected.
Since living here, Cedric often takes me out to eat. Starting a blog turned out to be popular, what a hassle.
Cody laughed. Since moving in with Cedric and his family, Cody, who loved food, was frequently taken out to various restaurants by Cedric. He started reviewing the flavors on a blog, which became popular for its honest depiction of minor local eateries. Now, he even writes articles for magazines, introducing recommended gourmet maps. Gourmet Ironman was his pen name. His articles were so influential that celebrities often visited the restaurants he reviewed. Cody, once mocked as a dropout living on a pension, now earned his income solely through his talent for writing and popularity, regardless of his educational background.
I saw you entering a restaurant I know and realized you are the Gourmet Iron Man. Please, Cody, I apologize for the past, but can you feature our restaurant on your blog or in the media?
Ethan added.
I know it's too convenient, but I'm asking too.
I had once cared deeply for Ethan, no doubt about it. But after 10 years without contact, their return now, trying to salvage only the good parts, made me feel nauseous beyond disgust.
It's way too convenient. Even if you apologize, your mindset hasn't changed, has it? We're still living on pensions, you know? Can you still apologize despite that?
Tiana responded to my words.
I can apologize.
She responded immediately.
Your pride and beliefs are so flimsy. You insulted us over something so trivial that you can apologize so easily? That is. Isn't it because people like that are in management that the store's business is getting worse? Always about money, no passion in what they do. Say whatever you want to me. I'll take it as my punishment. But please, the article about our store.
At that moment,
well, that's a bit of a problem,
Cody said.
What?
Exclaimed Tiana.
Didn't your family also runs a Japanese restaurant called Sakura besides Italian place, Ruble D?
Yes.
And a ramen place, Ramen Master, right? Yes, but what does that have to do with anything? I knew about Ruble D since you got married, but I didn't know much about the managing company, so I ended up writing bad reviews for the other places too. Just the day before yesterday.
What? She was frozen by Cody's revelation.
The magazine asked me to write a critical piece on these places. They said they've been getting bad reviews lately and wanted to feature them. So I wrote exactly what I saw. I even spread rumors about the poor attitude of the managers, which I heard from another writer during my visit. The ramen place served bowls with fingers in them, and the Japanese place lacked cleanliness. Some dishes were served cold, as if they were frozen. Isn't that a bit much?
I also heard about this from Cody, saying,
I might have written something bad about Tiana's family.
That's how I learned about her family situation. It was more of a disclosure of facts than bad-mouthing.
What else was there?
Cody muttered as Tiana started to tremble.
Did you write about everything? It was my way of showing care. I thought it was unfair for customers to suffer losses. I've submitted the article today.
Hearing about the submission, Tiana, who was clinging to Cody, and Ethan both collapsed weakly on the spot.
You're kidding, right?
She murmured.
Education doesn't really matter in the end. If we take care of things one at a time, everyone gets equal results, and even small talents can grow with effort. Like Cody. Your family only hires college grads, which isn't bad, but you can't judge someone's character by a resume. You look down on people too much. Did you learn something?
At my words, Tiana contorted her face and apologized.
I'm sorry.
She must have realized how shameful her behavior had been towards someone she had once cut ties with. She apologized and left. Ethan also said,
I'm truly sorry for forgetting the kindness of those who raised me and for constantly choosing the wrong path.
And with tears, he followed Tiana. I wish they had realized this sooner but didn't say it aloud. That's your path. Keep going. Even though we cut ties, a parent's heart remains. After Cody's article was published, it became a hot topic online, and Tiana's family's store lost customers. Reports said they were using expired meat and mislabeling products. It became apparent they were a conglomerate of scandals and closed all stores within a year. Bankruptcy. From what I hear on internet forums, Ethan and Tiana divorced after that incident. Tiana struggles to find work outside the food industry and lives alone in a cheap apartment. Ethan was seen working part-time at a discount store near their old home. There were arguments heard from their home before the bankruptcy, and their marriage deteriorated as the business did. Both cut off ties, and though I can't confirm the truth, I hope Ethan learns what's truly right for him through these hardships. If we ever meet again, no, I'm still too angry. They should suffer and learn from society. As for me, I've recovered from an illness a few years ago and am now living happier and healthier, all thanks to the dedicated support of Cedric and his wife, and the joy of my grandchildren. And most of all, it's thanks to my precious husband who heals me. Caddy has grown much stronger and is now a powerful mom. Caddy says, "It's starting to look like you." That said, I was supposed to be ladylike. It's strange. I do see similarities in the way we scold our grandchildren or when I'm admonishing Cedric. It's strange how non-blood-related family members can resemble each other. I want to continue watching over Cedric and his family. Since recovering, I've started going on walking dates 3 times a week to a nearby park with Cody. It's a small joy, but it feels like returning to my youth, and I'm happy. I'll keep taking care of my health and enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime life. I'm Jessica, a 38-year-old office worker. I have been married to my husband, Brandon, for 5 years now. However, we've been struggling to have children. Being the eldest and only son, Brandon has always been under pressure from his mother, Chloe, to have a boy since we got married. These days, few people care about the gender of their children, and either a son or daughter can be an heir. Brandon himself doesn't care about the gender and says there's no rush to have children. But Chloe sees me as an adversary and always tells me when Brandon's not around.
A woman who can't have children is useless in this family. If you can't have one, you might as well leave.
Her words have hurt me deeply.
I'm sorry, Chloe, but honestly, your words are very pressuring. I wish you wouldn't say such things.
I finally gathered the courage to express my feeling to Chloe. But she didn't understand it at all and became even more oppressive, telling me not to defy her. I was shocked. I never expected such words from her. At first, I endured it because she's Brandon's mother and I didn't want to cause any trouble. But enduring Chloe's sarcasm while undergoing fertility treatments was mentally taxing, and my health started to decline. I couldn't hide it anymore. I confided in Brandon. Furious, Brandon sternly warned Chloe, which stopped her surprise visits to our apartment for a while, but she continued to hurl insults daily through WhatsApp. Then one day, I found out I was pregnant at the fertility clinic. The first sight of the fetal ultrasound filled me with indescribable emotions. When I showed Brandon the ultrasound at home, we both cried tears of joy. But our happiness was short-lived as I remembered a significant problem. Chloe. Telling her about the pregnancy would surely lead to her frequent visits, insisting that pregnancy isn't an illness, telling me to move around, or bragging about her own experiences. The doctor advised me not to overexert myself until a heartbeat is confirmed, so I was torn about what to do. After discussing with Brandon, we decided I should stay at my parents' house for a while. If I'm at my parents' house, even if I'm not feeling well, my parents are there, and Chloe won't make a surprise visit to my parents' house. It's close to my workplace and Chloe wouldn't barge in there. I called my mother right away, explaining about the pregnancy and Chloe, and decided to return home for a while. Brandon drove me to my parents' house, where they were overjoyed about my pregnancy. After greeting my parents, Brandon returned to our apartment. Being back at my parents' house, away from Chloe, brought me peace of mind. Soon after, morning sickness hit, and I spent days in bed. At work, my pale face raised concerns, and my boss suggested me to take a break, which I gratefully accepted. Many women at my job, including those who have undergone fertility treatments, understood my situation. Their support was comforting. Other than severe morning sickness, my pregnancy was uneventful, and the baby grew healthily. Feeling the first kicks was indescribably touching, and I lovingly caressed my belly every day. In fact, Brandon and I had already planned to move to a bigger house once we had a child. The reason is, our apartment was getting old, and while it's fine for just the two of us, it felt inconvenient for raising a child. We had set various criteria like proximity to stations, hospitals, and shopping facilities, and were searching accordingly. Then, Brandon suddenly sent me a photo. It was of a new high-rise condominium near the station. The area around the condo had everything needed for living, like commercial facilities and hospitals, and it was close to nurseries and schools, making it convenient for kids in the future. Completion is expected next month, and I casually entered a lottery for it. Surprisingly, we won. If you don't like it, we can just transfer it to someone else. Jessica, you can see it and decide. Hearing this, I immediately opened their website, was taken aback by the stylish design of the rooms, and exclaimed, "What?" The latest system kitchen, a bathroom with a sauna. Moreover, the unit we won was on the top floor of the 30-story building. The view from the window was amazing. I was a bit hesitant about the price, but Brandon works at a top-tier company, and with our salaries, we could afford it, so I decided to sign the contract for this condominium. Of course, I couldn't keep the purchase of a new high-rise condominium from my in-laws. I talked about it through Austin, my father-in-law. Austin said, "It's impressive that you young ones bought a condominium. If you need anything, I'm here to help." However, Chloe was not happy about this. When she found out we bought a high-rise condo, she was upset that we weren't living with her. Then, an incident happened. A week after moving in, Chloe suddenly visited. As usual, she went around the room complaining, but I entertained her with a smile. Then, suddenly, Chloe said she dropped her keys near the emergency stairs.
What? Why did you drop your keys by the emergency stairs? Don't tell me you climbed all the way up here?
I said, but apparently, she had dropped them while checking where the emergency stairs were, just in case. I went to the emergency stairs instead of Chloe to get the keys. At that moment,
"I'm taking this house."
I was suddenly pushed from behind, lost my balance, and fell down the stairs.
Ouch! Help, somebody!
Unable to stand due to pain and shock, I suddenly felt warm water flowing around my feet. Realizing I had probably broken my water, I thought about calling an ambulance, but since I had hit my head hard, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. Brandon was there, looking worriedly at me.
Jessica, are you okay?
Brandon asked, visibly shaken, as I woke up.
Where am I? What happened to me?
I was still confused from just waking up and had a fuzzy consciousness from the head injury. When I touched my stomach, I felt something was off. My stomach, which was big until recently, had shrunk. Realizing this, I felt the blood drain from my face.
Hey, why is my stomach like this? Where's my baby? Where did my baby go?
I asked Brandon. Then Brandon quietly began to speak.
The baby in your belly is.
The moment I heard those words, I couldn't stop my tears and began crying out loud in the hospital room. Someone on the same floor found me, noticing the emergency staircase door left open. When they went to close it, they found me collapsed and hurriedly called an ambulance. Brandon asked why I approached the emergency stairs, so I explained everything about my interaction with Chloe. I was mentally harassed by Chloe when Brandon wasn't around before, which had once caused me to fall ill. Because of that, Brandon instructed me to always carry a voice recorder. Of course, I started recording the moment Chloe showed up unannounced. After listening to the voice recorder, it was clear that Chloe was the culprit. Brandon was furious to learn that his own mother had done such a thing. Then, a call came in on Brandon's mobile phone from a relative. On the call, Brandon heard a shocking fact. It seemed Chloe, thinking the baby had died, was telling relatives while crying.
Oh, my poor sweet grandchild has gone to heaven. It's so sad. It's because Jessica, even though she's pregnant, went out riding a bicycle.
She was making up absurd stories. However, Austin, who was present, had heard nothing like that from either me or Brandon and was looking at Chloe in utter disbelief. It seemed impossible that Austin didn't know anything about it. And the idea of a woman in her 9th month of pregnancy riding a bicycle. That's why the relative called Brandon. It was unbelievable. Then Brandon, taking the voice recorder, said,
Jessica, let me borrow this for a bit. Can you leave the rest to me?
He then left the hospital room. As Brandon left, my parents arrived. After I explained everything, they were both shocked and angry. I decided to trust Brandon and wait in the hospital room for the outcome. Meanwhile, Brandon met with the relative who had called him. It turned out Chloe was gathering relatives at her house, explaining the incident. Of course, her words were nonsense, and she was just trying to make herself look innocent. Some relatives believed Chloe and wept, while others were skeptical and viewed her with suspicion. Suddenly, Brandon burst in, causing Chloe to look at him in surprise.
Huh? Brandon, why are you here? You were supposed to be with Jessica. She needs you. It's so sad about the baby. I was looking forward to its birth.
Chloe said, even feigning tears. At that moment, something snapped in Brandon.
Enough, Mom. I know everything. You pushed Jessica down the emergency stairs,
he said, pulling out the voice recorder in front of the relatives. Everyone was shocked to hear the conversation recorded so vividly. Who heard the voice could not hide their surprise.
Is this true?
Austin, whose face turned pale due to the shock, asked Chloe.
No, that's not true. This is nonsense. I didn't go near the emergency stairs.
Even after hearing the recording, Chloe insisted she hadn't done it. However, there was a security camera nearby, and its footage would surely show me and Chloe entering the emergency stairwell. When Brandon mentioned this, Chloe, who had been speaking fluently until then, turned pale and began to tremble.
How awful. We're family, aren't we? How dare you shame your own mother like this?
Chloe clung to Brandon, insisting she was innocent and that it was Jessica who had slipped on her own. Even if that were true, leaving someone who had fallen and not helping them is questionable. However, the relatives who had already heard the voice recording did not believe Chloe's story. Instead, they urged her to go to the police and turn herself in.
It's not me. I'm not the bad one. You understand, don't you? You know I'm not the kind of person who would do this. Prove it in front of everyone.
Chloe desperately appealed to Austin to affirm her innocence. But no one believed Chloe's story anymore. Soon, the police arrived, and from the audio and the subsequent security camera footage, it was clear that Chloe was the perpetrator. She was taken to the police station and arrested. The reason she did this was because the baby was a girl. Chloe had always been fixated on having a grandson, and when she found out the baby in the womb was a girl, she was disappointed. She thought that by pretending this baby never existed, she could try for a boy next time. When I heard this from the police, my head went blank with shock. Despite all that had happened, the baby grew healthily in an incubator and was discharged after 2 months. A few days after coming home from the hospital, Austin visited our apartment to apologize for the incident. He said that he and Chloe had divorced, that their house was sold, and he was going to move back to his family home. It was sad that the house where Brandon had grown up was gone, but since Austin wasn't to blame, we told him he was always welcome to visit. We regularly let Austin see his granddaughter after that. He adored his first grandchild and played with her with such kindness in his eyes. 3 years later, our second child, a boy, was born. Our daughter, now a big sister, couldn't wait to take care of her brother and was always by his side. Watching them was heartwarming, and every day was filled with happiness. But that happiness was disrupted by a visit from someone. The doorbell rang repeatedly, and when I checked the monitor, to my surprise, it was Chloe. I thought I would never see her again, and seeing her brought back memories of that day, making me feel nauseous.
What do you want now? I have no intention of seeing you again. Please leave.
I said, but Chloe wouldn't listen. Apparently, Chloe had fallen ill, struggling daily with her health and finding it difficult to go to the hospital without a car. She had divorced Austin, and their house was now just an empty lot. She had no one else to turn to for help. Shockingly, Chloe knew I had given birth to a boy. She had apparently seen us in town, noticing Brandon holding our son. To Chloe, it was the long-desired grandson. She was determined to live with us and make the boy fond of her.
So you finally became a proper woman, giving birth to a boy. When you were pregnant with a girl, I was so disappointed in you. But now that you've had a boy, let's forget the past and live together, shall we?
For a moment, I doubted my own ears. Live together after all that? Impossible.
What are you talking about? After what you did, living together is impossible. Leave now, or I'll call the police.
Unfortunately, Brandon was at work at this crucial time. In distress, I immediately called Austin. He was supposed to visit the apartment today to see his son and daughter. With trembling hands, I called Austin. It turned out he was already near the apartment, so he hurried over. When Austin arrived, Chloe exclaimed in surprise. We couldn't argue in the entrance of the apartment building, as it would disturb others. But I had no intention of letting Chloe, whom we had cut ties with, into our apartment again. I gave Chloe an ultimatum, telling her I would call the police if she really didn't leave. Realizing her wish wouldn't be fulfilled, Chloe started to create a scene at the entrance and began arguing with Austin. Troubled, I contacted Brandon at work. After hearing the situation, Brandon called the police, and they soon arrived at our apartment. The police, understanding the situation, took Chloe away in a police car. As the commotion was in a conspicuous place, several residents of the apartment witnessed it. I felt sorry for causing inconvenience to many people. Later, after Brandon returned home, we discussed the situation with Austin and decided to move. As long as we lived here, Chloe would surely come back. We couldn't risk something happening to the children next time. Besides, Austin, though he said he had gone back to his family home, was living alone since his parents had passed away. Our daughter liked Austin and had previously expressed a desire to live with him. Austin is a kind person, and leaving him alone at his age worried us. When we proposed living together, Austin was very happy, despite everything that had happened. Afterwards, we bought a used property in the next town. Though it was second-hand, the house itself was very nice, and the surrounding environment was good too. Living in a high-rise was nice, but raising children in a place surrounded by nature seemed better. Right after moving, my daughter and Austin went to a mountain to hunt for beetles. Seeing them so happy made me feel that deciding to live together and choosing this place was the right decision. Once a month, we invite my parents over, and we all enjoy a home party, leading a happy life. Meanwhile, according to someone I was close with at the high-rise apartment, Chloe, undeterred, visited the high-rise again. But when told we had moved and she couldn't find out where, she left disappointed. If it weren't for what happened, Chloe might have been here, feeling the children's growth with us. Well, it's a natural consequence, but still. Later, I heard Chloe reluctantly returned to her hometown, rented a small apartment, and now lives a lonely life, working part-time in cleaning.
Joseph, and now my job too? Poor Carol. I will be happy, won't I? That's what Sandra, a colleague from my company, said, who stole my fiancé Joseph right before our wedding. I was so uncomfortable at the company due to her lies, I requested to be transferred to a subsidiary. This action, in turn, ended up disrupting the destiny of Joseph and me. I am Carol, a 27-year-old employee. Since graduating from university, I have been all about work, with no time for dating men. However, Joseph, who joined the company mid-career, passionately pursued me, and we have been dating for 2 years now. We decided to get married, and with the wedding 4 months away, I was busy with preparations. Sharon, here's the wedding invitation. I hope you can celebrate with us on the day. Thank you. Oh, the wedding is finally happening. I'm excited. I handed an invitation to my direct supervisor, Sharon, whom I aspire to be like. Ah, by the way, Sandra took the day off today. She's not feeling well. I see. Understood. Sandra, having joined us just 4 months ago, frankly isn't great at her job. She gets by on charm and cuteness. The men in the office being kind to women often help her out. Often, I've had to do overtime because of Sandra's mess-ups or to cover for her. With Sandra off today, it looks like I can leave early for a change. As expected, work ended on schedule. Joseph had taken the day off, so I decided to surprise him with dinner and headed to his place with groceries. I had a key, so I entered quietly. The entryway was dark, but light shone from down the hallway. I used my phone's light to illuminate my path. Thinking how surprised he'd be, I saw something unbelievable. There, a pair of pink high heels I'd never wear. These high heels? I recognized them. And further down the hall, a woman's suit and stockings scattered about. Put them all together, and you'd have Sandra. All that was missing was Sandra herself. Infuriated, I flung open the living room door.
Whoa, Carol, what are you doing here? You're usually working overtime.
The source of my overtime cuddling next to Joseph, Sandra glared at me. I was surprisingly calm, considering I felt like asking, "Why are you glaring at me?" Or maybe I was furious. "What? This engagement is off. We're about to have our wedding. What are you thinking?"
What a hassle. I didn't like this side of you, Carol. Sandra's young. She leans on me, and I find comfort in her. It's not for you to decide. I'll say it. Our engagement is off. I'll pay the cancellation fee. Consider it tuition.
Joseph spoke with a sleazy smile, Sandra looking triumphant. They say you don't cry when you're too shocked. I understand now. I was too dumbfounded to speak. Fed up, I agreed to call off the engagement and went home. Once home, I drank too much in frustration and couldn't sleep, facing the next morning sleeplessly. When I got to the office, rumors of our broken engagement had already spread, shocking everyone. Must be Sandra's doing. Carol, can we talk? Sure, Sharon. Suddenly called by Sharon, I followed her into a meeting room. Is it true what others are saying about the engagement being off? Yes, it's already spread, huh? I don't care about the rumors, but I'd rather not continue working here. Those two aren't even trying to hide, acting all lovey-dovey since morning. They're probably playing me as the villain in their stories. Hearing my honest feelings, Sharon made a suggestion. How about a transfer to a subsidiary? Leave it to me. A transfer? Sharon's response was unexpected, and I felt a bit sad. Why did I, the victim, have to leave? And why away from Sharon, whom I adored? Sharon continued the conversation. Actually, I've been talking about you to my work colleagues for a while now, Carol. They've been saying they'd really like you to join us. But you know you're needed at our company, and with your wedding coming up, I have been subtly turning them down. I'm touched to learn Sharon has been speaking highly of me, and even more so by her kind suggestion. My wounds haven't healed yet, so I feel tears welling up. Thinking about it, maybe it's time to take on a new challenge. As much as I don't want to let you go, Carol, I think this might be a turning point. You can always come back once things have settled down. I immediately accepted Sharon's offer and transferred to the subsidiary. A year has passed, and I've been enjoying my work. It's everything I wanted to do, just as Sharon had promised. Though I miss working with Sharon, we live nearby and spend our private time almost like family. Sharon's husband and daughter are such a kind family that I've started to reconsider marriage, something I had given up on. Just then, I found an invitation in my mailbox when I got home. Opening it, I couldn't believe who it was from. Incredibly, Sandra had sent me an invitation to her wedding. I called Sandra. Long time no see, Carol. Sandra, how dare you send me an invitation? Do people normally invite the person who stole their fiancé to their wedding? I could hear Sandra's triumphant laughter. Poor Carol. Lost Joseph and your job. I'm going to be happy, aren't I? Since you probably won't get married. I thought I'd let you at least feel the atmosphere out of kindness. You really are nasty. Joseph was really fooled by you. I'm a bit irritated that someone with Sandra's ethics took my fiancé, but more so at Joseph for betraying me so easily. No, maybe I'm the one to blame for trusting such a man. I'm not sure. I'll make sure to throw the bouquet your way, okay? I don't want to leave any hard feelings as I'm getting married. Fine by me. I don't want to hold any grudges either. I'll come. I want to see Sharon, and I have no lingering feelings for Joseph. In truth, I have no regrets. Changing jobs has made me genuinely want to celebrate for them. I marked will attend on the invitation and sent it back. A week later, an unexpected visitor came to the office. As I was about to leave, someone suddenly called out to me from behind. Long time no see, Carol. Been well? I turned to find someone who looked like Joseph holding my shoulder. He looked like Joseph, but his appearance had changed drastically. Joseph, you look different. You've lost a lot of weight. Yeah, I'm getting married soon, so I dieted to look good in a tuxedo. What do you think? Fallen for me again? This wasn't just weight loss. He looked haggard. Really? Congratulations. It's Sandra, right? You knew. Hey, how about we get back together? I'm calling off the wedding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Joseph was saying he was calling off the wedding again? What? Are you serious, Joseph? Now you're betraying Sandra? Well, the thing is, once we got engaged, Sandra stopped doing any housework, gained 33 pounds, and got pregnant. She's using pregnancy as an excuse to be lazy. That's not fulfilling her duties as a wife. But you, Carol, you've become more beautiful. Maybe I should marry you instead. You were crazy about me, right? Once again, I felt relieved not to be married. As much as I disliked Sandra, I couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for her. No way. Why are you complaining when Sandra is carrying your child? If I had married you and gained weight, you would have dumped me too, right? Breaking up was the right decision. Whether Sandra isn't doing housework or can't because she's struggling, you should be supporting her in this day and age. Anyway, I have things to do, so I'm leaving now. Bye. Joseph's unfocused eyes scared me, so I tried to leave quickly, but he grabbed my wrist. Ouch! What? Let go. I don't want to be misunderstood by people around here, and I'll shout if I have to.
What's with you, Carol? You should have forgiven me for that one-time affair. My heart was always with you. You left too easily when I tested you. You never took me seriously, did you?
His grasp on my wrist tightened, surprisingly strong for his emaciated arm. He dragged me into an alley, making it even harder to call for help. Calm down, Joseph. If I call the police, you'll get arrested, you know?
I'll smash your mobile phone before you can call them. Go ahead, try me. At your old company, there's no place for you anymore. Sandra spread lies that you cheated. But if you get back with me, you can return to the company.
Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, someone appeared behind Joseph.
Joseph and Carol, what are you doing? Cheating, perhaps?
Sandra showed up, barely recognizable. No, it's not like that. I'm being harassed by your husband. Take him away.
No, this is definitely cheating. Caught in the act. I'll sue both of you for compensation in the divorce.
The enemy of my enemy was just another enemy. It seemed like a setup.
What, Sandra? After money again? The child isn't even mine, right? I'll sue you for compensation in the divorce. What? There's no proof for that. Just so you know, if you do a DNA test, I'll sue you.
Sandra and Joseph began arguing, each still an enemy to the other. Excuse me, can I leave? I have a meeting to get to.
What do you mean, leave? This is all your fault, Carol. I took Joseph away because he was supposed to be promising, but it turns out it wasn't a lie.
Of course, Sharon, who's angry because I gave Joseph advice to get promoted and neglected me, is right there. There's no way she would support me as she used to.
I'll get evidence and sue you. I'll get a lot of compensation from you and Joseph and live a wealthy life.
Sandra had something like a knife in her hand. Just when I thought things were getting really dangerous, someone else came to stop the fight.
Carol, are you okay? I was worried, so I came to get you.
It was Richard, a man I met at my new workplace.
Why is Richard here? Sorry, I don't remember who you are.
Sandra looked blatantly disappointed. Clearly, Sandra remembered him, but Richard didn't seem to.
Remember, we had a meeting at the company about a year ago. Oh, I remember now. Thanks for everything. But why are you here?
Well, actually, these two are the couple I told you about. They asked me to come to their wedding. Richard nodded, listening attentively. I was grateful for someone who listened like that.
Ah, I see. Congratulations on your wedding.
Hearing the word wedding, Sandra put on a sly smile and began a poor imitation of crying, approaching Richard.
Oh, Richard, these two were cheating. They were holding hands just now. I can't go on living. Please help me.
It seemed Sandra was now targeting Richard. Certainly, Richard is tall and handsome, with a great personality. He's quite popular at the company. Don't say weird things in front of my fiancé.
Fiancé?
Sandra looked back and forth between me and Richard in surprise.
Actually, we're getting married soon, so there's no way Carol could do that. Plus, we're living together now, so there's no chance for cheating. I'm crazy about Carol. You know, she was a friend from my student days, and I had a crush on her for so long. Sharon let me know about her, and I felt it was fate. I didn't want to regret not expressing my feelings, so I made a move. It's not fair, all for Carol. I had my eyes on him first. I'll give you Joseph in exchange for Richard. The wedding is soon, right? It would be perfect, wouldn't it? Joseph and Carol were engaged before. Why not get back together?
Even then, Sandra was true to her desires, but Richard was out of her league.
No way, that's impossible. I remember now. Sandra, You were pretty aggressive back then, but I love Carol. I wouldn't throw away love that has finally come to fruition. Oh, speaking of throwing away, Joseph, right? I've heard about it from Carol. You didn't want to say it in front of Carol, but you dumped her, right? Even though you were about to get married. I heard you cheated just before. I got carried away.
Suddenly, Richard turned his attention to Joseph, who started to panic.
No, I'm grateful. If it's about marriage, I had no choice but to give up. But then you broke up with her just before, and now I can get married. When I heard that a subordinate in the company was getting married, I didn't know it was Carol. Oh, I see. That's good then. Well, we'll be going.
Since Richard appeared, Joseph had lost his energy. Why, I wondered. Because he just tried to get back with me and found out I had a fiancé. My question was answered by Sandra. Hey, why are you trying to leave on your own?
Stop it. Richard is going to be the next president of our company. If you mess with him, we're done for.
Someone was surprised by Joseph's response. Really? I never heard that.
I was planning to keep it a secret, but it slipped out. I didn't want to tell because of my title. You know, being chased by women after money is a trauma for me. I wanted a relationship that wasn't about that. Dad wasn't at the last family meeting, right? He did that for me. Actually, he likes Carol and wants to meet her soon.
I didn't feel tested and angry as others might, because I think I should have tested Joseph when he cheated. I see. Well, I would have done the same. Oh, right. At the face-to-face meeting, it would have been revealed the president is Dad.
That's unfair. I won it. If they haven't met at the family meeting, they wouldn't have noticed if we switched, right?
Richard sighed and then answered Sandra with a smile.
Don't worry. Dad knows about you, Sandra.
Sandra's face lit up, but Richard's next words crushed her.
Do you think I didn't know about the motel during work hours, or the little trips you called business trips? You thought Joseph didn't notice.
Without looking at Joseph, Richard spoke, turning the attention to Joseph, who was shocked and frozen.
Please forgive me. Tell that to Dad. I think you'd better confess yourself. Let's go.
I was escorted by Richard and managed to escape. This way, the two of them couldn't oppose us. Their quarreling echoed in the alley. The next day, they were called in and fired. Apparently, they had to pay damages and ended up with a huge debt for my settlement, company compensation, and wedding expenses. In the end, they divorced. Affairs like this don't last long. There are some who make it work, but they should follow the right steps. Otherwise, they change their minds. That's why there's no sense of crisis about infidelity or cheating. Turns out, Sandra was cheating too, and the child she had wasn't Joseph's. Angry, Joseph complained to his old colleagues, but no one sympathized since the false rumors had been corrected. I knew about this because Sharon told me. I returned to my old company, using my skills to get promoted. I was happy to be recognized for my efforts. Be thankful to me. I set you up with such a wonderful man. Sharon, I'll follow you forever, and please help me with my bride training. Sharon, my boss, a mother and sister figure, teaching me cooking despite her amusement. I have to be careful not to make Richard jealous lately. In the end, betraying others never leads to anything good. Joseph used to be decent. Oh, you're still too kind. Joseph's reputation was supported by you. I found out that at his previous company, his work wasn't well rated, and he just blamed the company and quit. I realized I might not be good at judging people, but I'm glad there are people who see me for who I am. It looks like happiness awaits me.
You can't spend all the money you want on your hair. It's just a waste. Scarlett, my mother-in-law, held me down against my will and forcibly chopped off my hair. Scarlett, who always bullied me, had done many terrible things to me. But this act was unforgivable. How much I had cherished my hair until now. Having my precious hair chopped off by her, I decided I couldn't live with Scarlett anymore and returned to my parents' house. 3 days after returning home, my husband called. When I answered, he was furious.
How long are you going to stay at your parents' place? It's your fault Mom got hit by a car.
I couldn't see how my being at my parents' house had anything to do with it, but I went to the hospital where Scarlett had been taken, as he said.
You left to stay at your parents' house without doing anything at home. Because of that, Mom had to go shopping, and on the way, she got hit by a car, and now she's paralyzed from the waist down.
And so, what does this have to do with me?
It does. You should take care of Mom.
What? No way. That's impossible. Absolutely not.
Then it's divorce.
I had been waiting for those words. I had been mutilated by Scarlett, having my pride and joy, my hair chopped off. To think I would agree to care for her with a simple, okay, I understand, that's not possible. Fine, let's get divorced then. My husband seemed not to have expected me to agree to a divorce. He was surprised. They made my life miserable so they can just live together happily ever after. 2 years ago, I married Anthony, who was a colleague at a major automobile manufacturer. After getting married, I quit my job and started working part-time at a nearby drugstore. We want children someday, but haven't had any yet due to my infertility.
Amelia, don't rush. It will happen someday.
Whenever I got depressed about not being able to have children, my husband always comforted me with kind words. He's busy with work and comes home late every day. I handle all the household chores while balancing my part-time job, which is quite challenging. But I felt truly happy having married a kind man. One day, half a year into our marriage, my husband and I both had a day off, and were preparing to go shopping together when his phone rang.
What? Dad?
He turned pale as he answered the call. What happened?
Dad, he's dead.
I never imagined his always energetic father would die. We rushed to the hospital where his father had been taken. Why? Why so suddenly? In the hospital room, Scarlett was crying and clinging to her husband. The shock was unimaginable. His father died of a sudden heart attack. It seems Scarlett found him already passed away at home. Since his death, Scarlett has lost her spirit and she seems distracted even when my husband calls her.
You know, leaving Mom alone like this is a bit dangerous.
Yeah, she seems really distressed.
If you're okay with it, Amelia, can you live with Mom at your parents' house? If we all live together, Mom might cheer up.
I agreed to my husband's suggestion. Fortunately, we hadn't bought a house yet and we're living in an apartment, so moving was easy. As his son's wife, I wanted to do something for her. If living together could help Scarlett regain her spirits. So 1 month after father-in-law's death, we moved to the in-laws' house, but I never imagined that this decision would lead to such a terrible outcome. The day after we started living with Scarlett at the in-laws' house, I was awakened by her yelling, "Are you still sleeping? Get up and prepare breakfast." Is it that late already? Groggy, I checked the clock on my pillow and it was still 6 a.m. Scarlett, it's only 6 a.m. What are you talking about so leisurely? It's normal for a wife to wake up before 5 a.m., clean the house, and prepare breakfast. I was being forced to accept Scarlett's values? Reluctantly, I decided to prepare breakfast as she demanded. Even while I was making breakfast in the kitchen, Scarlett's snide commands didn't stop. Don't be lazy just because you don't have children. You have it easy without kids. Scarlett kept insisting to me that life must be easy without children even before living together. She used to say, "I want to see my grandchild soon." She seems displeased that I haven't been able to conceive. Well, it's a blessing that's not easy to come by. It's not your fault for being infertile. If you're so slack, hurry up and get fertility treatment and have a child. Being unable to have a child, you're such a failure. I couldn't help but argue back with Scarlett. This led to her starting to bully me from that day on. Can't you even do something this simple? You think this is clean? Piling up laundry like this? Why didn't you do it more often? Scarlett started to complain about everything I did. Juggling part-time work and household chores, I might not have been perfect, but I'm not free enough to do everything flawlessly. A week after bullying started, mentally exhausted, I talked to my husband about Scarlett when he returned home from a company drinking party. Hey, Scarlett has been complaining about everything I do lately.
What? Household chores are the wife's job, right? Mom used to do it all without complaining.
That might be true, but it's impossible to be perfect. I also have a part-time job.
Stop making excuses. Is that all you want to talk about? I'm going to bed.
My husband didn't take me seriously. Without the support of my husband, who I thought was my only ally, I had no choice but to endure Scarlett's bullying. Taking my silence as a sign of weakness, Scarlett's bullying escalated. One day after finishing cleaning up breakfast and returning to my room, I found Scarlett rummaging through my closet. Scarlett, what are you doing? You only have such plain underwear? Scarlett was holding my underwear in both hands. Hey, don't go through my things without permission. Dressing so unattractively, no wonder Anthony doesn't pay attention to you. Wear something that catches his eye a bit more. When will I get to see my grandchild? It didn't need to be said. Every time, it comes down to wanting to see your grandchild. I want children too. I'm even undergoing fertility treatments, wishing for a child if I can. Without knowing how I feel, Scarlett relentlessly threw harsh words at me. I stood there, unable to say anything back to Scarlett. A week later, that day, my husband was out for a business golf outing, and only Scarlett and I were at the in-laws' house. As usual, I woke up early to make breakfast, cleaned up, and started doing house chores, but Scarlett seemed in a bad mood. While I was cleaning the living room, Scarlett sat on the sofa, constantly fidgeting. Why are you fidgeting like that? I was so curious I had to ask Scarlett. Your shampoo seems to be quite expensive. Oh, I've always taken good care of my hair. I've always been confident about my hair since I was young. Since childhood, I have received many compliments about my long, straight hair and put a lot of effort into its care. Why spend money on your hair? Why not spend more money on fertility treatment? I am undergoing fertility treatments and the shampoo is paid for with my part-time job earnings. As I said this, Scarlett laughed ominously. She stood up, came over to me, and grabbed my hair fiercely. It hurts. Please stop. Scarlett started cutting my hair with the scissors she held. It's your fault for having such long hair. After Scarlett cut my hair for a while, I realized it was as short as a man's. Tears streaming, I stood there in shock as Scarlett, with a malicious smile, returned to her room. My pride, my beautiful hair, was gone in an instant. All the effort I put into it for nothing? I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't live with someone like her any longer. So I messaged my husband and going back to my parents' house for a while and left the in-laws' house in a hurry. I will never forgive Scarlett. On the way back to my parents' house, I was filled with intense hatred towards Scarlett. 3 days later, my husband called in the middle of a weekday. Hey, how long are you going to stay at your parents'? Come back here soon. He hadn't contacted me since I left, and now this? I'm not coming back. Scarlett cut my hair, which I cherished. I don't want to see her face, and I plan to stay away for a while. When I firmly told my husband I didn't want to return, he suddenly became furious. Your hair doesn't matter. His sudden loud voice made me pull the phone away from my ear. What's wrong with you? Mom had an accident. Come back quickly. Though I didn't want to see Scarlett, upon hearing she had an accident, I decided to go to the hospital. After about an hour, I arrived at the hospital and entered the room to find Scarlett lying in bed with a breathing machine. What have you been doing all this time? My husband, noticing me, was very heated and started berating me. It's your fault. Mom had to go shopping and got hit by a car. If you hadn't gone back to your parents' house, this wouldn't have happened. How unreasonable. What does Scarlett getting hit by a car have to do with me? I wanted to retort, but seeing Scarlett's terrible condition, I couldn't say anything back. It must have been a major surgery. Her body was wrapped in gauze, and there were abrasions everywhere. Excuse me, are you family? A doctor entered the room, probably to explain Scarlett's condition. Scarlett has severely damaged her lower body. There is a possibility of paralysis. If the nerves are damaged, I'm afraid complete recovery is unlikely. Is there nothing that can be done? Unfortunately, there is nothing more we can do. My husband, hearing this from the doctor, collapsed to the ground, head in hands. About 30 minutes later, Scarlett woke up. Why am I in the hospital? Mom, thank goodness you're awake. You were hit by a car and brought here. More importantly, can you move your legs? I can't move them. Why? It seems that, as the doctor said, Scarlett lost a sensation in her lower body. Seeing Scarlett's condition, my husband yelled at me again. It's all your fault. You have to take care of Mom now. Wait a minute. Why should I be the one to take care of her? Sure, it's sad that she had a terrible accident and is now paralyzed, but I have suffered so much at Scarlett's hands. What? Absolutely not.
How heartless can you be? Scarlett is in such a terrible state and you won't even care for her? If you won't, then let's get a divorce.
He thinks by mentioning divorce, I'll just obey him? For me, it's a welcome suggestion. In fact, I was waiting for it. Sure, I have no problem with getting divorced.
What?
The moment I agreed to the divorce, my husband was shocked. He probably never thought I would actually go through with it.
But you only work part-time, right? You don't earn much. Can you survive?
True, I work part-time and my lifestyle will go down a bit, but I have savings and can manage for a while. I stood firm against my husband. Even if life becomes a bit harder, it's better than living with my husband and Scarlett.
Really? Don't come back regretting.
Regret? No way. It's better to live alone than with a wife abusing Scarlett and a husband who never listens to anything I say. Saying that, I pulled out divorce papers from my bag. I had taken them when I left the in-laws' house. Sign quickly before you change your mind. My husband, prompted by me, signed the divorce papers. As he threw the completed papers at me, he said,
"Here, suffer through a hard life."
You too. Live well together. I was about to leave the hospital room but remembered I had something to say to Scarlett. Oh, right, Scarlett, you cut my hair without my permission, remember? I'll never forgive you for that. After conveying that to Scarlett, I submitted the divorce papers. On my way to the in-laws' house to get my things, memories with my husband came flooding back, but in the end, he probably only ever cared about himself. To him, I must have been nothing more than a convenient housekeeper. When I called my parents to inform them of the divorce, they warmly told me to come back home. They said they would support me financially until I found a job. A month later, back at my parents' house, while continuing my part-time work, I decided I couldn't rely on them forever and started job hunting. Fortunately, with my bookkeeping qualifications, I was hired by a small construction company nearby and managed to find a job. The income isn't much, but it's enough to live on. I can make it work. As I was enjoying my new life one day, my ex-husband suddenly came to my parents' house.
"Amelia, please open up."
I was frightened by my ex-husband who was shouting loudly through the doorbell. My parents were out that day and I was the only one home since I had the day off. Of course, he didn't know I was off work. Frightened by his sudden visit, I decided to talk to him. What do you want now? Go back.
"Please, come back home."
What? No way. We're divorced. Why should I come back?
"Don't say that. Taking care of mom is easier than part-time work, right?"
How selfish can this man be? Thinking taking care of Scarlett is easier than part-time work? No way. Working part-time is much better. Who wants to take care of Scarlett? Is that all? Just go back. I tried to send him away quickly, but my ex-husband wouldn't leave. Instead, he kept shouting at the entrance. This is becoming a nuisance to the neighbors. Reluctantly, I opened the door and let my ex-husband in.
"Please, just this once. If we don't remarry, can you visit mom?"
He was so persistent that I reluctantly agreed to visit the former in-laws' house. Upon arriving and entering the house, Scarlett's angry voice was immediately audible. "Where have you been?" Scarlett's grating voice made me feel miserable. I thought I would never come here again. Entering the living room, I was shocked by the scene before me. What is this situation? Sandwich containers scattered on the table and floor, half-drunk bottles rolled carelessly around. Scarlett's care must be challenging, impossible to do while working. What are you dulling for? I need to go to the bathroom. Help me now.
"Mom, what about the helper? Didn't we arrange for one today?"
I don't need such useless people. They can't do their jobs properly. Scarlett, now wheelchair-bound, had become even more difficult, lashing out even at her helper. That's why she's been refused by facilities. As my ex-husband mentioned, and I understood why. "Hey, you'll do. Take me to the bathroom now." Scarlett noticed me and demanded help, but she's a stranger to me now. Why should I help? Are you referring to me? I have nothing to do with you now. Ask your son. Such an insolent girl? Scarlett, infuriated by my words, threw a nearby bottle at me. She tried to hit me but lost balance and fell from her wheelchair. "It's your fault I ended up like this. Take responsibility." Scarlett glared at me from the floor, but I was no longer afraid. Responsibility? Why should I, who's no longer your daughter-in-law, take care of you? I haven't forgiven you for what you did.
"Don't say that. I know it's shameful, but I can't manage daily life in this state. Please, let's start over."
Start over? Don't say that so lightly. I can't listen to you now. I managed housework while working part-time, so you can do it too.
I regret not helping with the housework and always siding with mom. Please, give me another chance.
My ex-husband begged and apologized deeply, but his actions didn't move me at all. My ex-husband kneeling and Scarlett lying on the floor, I spoke to them with contempt. No matter how much you apologize, I won't return to this house. Take care of Scarlett or reconsider things with Anthony. Really? Such a heartless wife. Don't you feel sorry for me? Scarlett still glared at me. She doesn't understand her position. Such an attitude is why no one wants to deal with her. Yeah, I don't feel sorry for you. It's your own responsibility. Now I'll be leaving.
Wait!
My ex-husband desperately tried to stop me from leaving. Fed up, I turned to him. If you keep following me, I'll call the police for stalking, and if you come to my parents' house again, I won't hesitate to report you. After saying that, my ex-husband fell silent. This should stop them from bothering me anymore. They are reaping what they sowed after treating me poorly. They should live together happily. Since then, my ex-husband hasn't unexpectedly visited my parents' house and I have been living peacefully. I got used to my job and even found a new boyfriend. My private life was going great. One day, I received a message from my ex-husband.
It's been a while. I lost my job after that. I got tired from taking care of mom. I'm job hunting, but it's tough to find an employment, so I'm barely getting by with part-time work. Mom had to be hospitalized again, but she might be discharged due to bad reviews from the nurses. Sorry for sending such a sudden message. I really regret the trouble I caused you.
After reading the message, I deleted it. He probably thought appealing to my emotions might bring me back. To me, their situation feels almost refreshing. I have started a new life. I don't want any more involvement with them. I spent too much time for them, not myself. Now I'll use my time for my own happiness. If I ever marry my current boyfriend, I'll never live in the in-laws' house. I don't want to go through that again.
I'm so tired. Hey, grab me a beer and some steak.
Mother-in-law, what are you just sitting there for? Go get some beer and snacks. You're really useless.
It was New Year's Eve, and my house was filled with relatives. My eldest son and his wife had just arrived and wasted no time in bossing me around. Still stunned by their rudeness, my daughter-in-law continued with a sour face.
We haven't even gotten a thank you for the Christmas gifts yet. Huh? Sierra's study desk and shoulder bag, they were nice, weren't they? Or didn't you like them? The colors were so cute.
I clenched my fist and quietly responded. All right, let me thank you then. Avril, I see you've started wearing men's cologne. Avril sniffed her sleeve with a shocked expression.
Mom, Avril doesn't wear cologne. Wait, you're right.
I hear all kinds of things from your son, Kyle. All kinds of things. I grinned at my visibly sweating daughter-in-law. My name is Liliana, and I'm 63. I work part-time in a restaurant, and my husband of the same age is still working full-time. Of my adult children, my eldest son, Benedict, and his family live in a high-rise apartment in town, while my younger son, James, and his family share our home. That's because James' daughter has health issues. After their marriage, they rented a condo but moved in with us to be closer to the big hospital where their daughter had been hospitalized several times. Being closer makes it more convenient for medical appointments, and my husband and I can look after our granddaughter if needed. I get along well with James' responsible yet unassuming wife. But no matter how much time passes, I can't get along with my non-live-in daughter-in-law, Avril. Are you guys struggling financially? One day I finally asked her. Avril habitually drops by unannounced and helps herself to our fridge. That day she was stuffing an array of high-end hams, fruits, and vegetables into her bag.
Don't lump us in with James and his wife. We have college and grad school degrees, you know.
So you won't mind leaving some for us?
It's just a little food. We're spending a fortune on Kyle's entrance exams.
In the end, she took canned and ready-to-eat foods too. My husband and James returned from a day out to find the fridge empty and were bewildered, but we couldn't tell Avril to stay away and just put up with it. One day, I came home from work and went to my dresser, only to find my jewelry box empty. James's wife wouldn't just take my jewelry without asking. When I asked Avril, she texted back, I borrowed them. But then, no word from her for 6 months. I couldn't take it anymore and called her. Avril, can you return my pearl necklace and diamond earrings? They're heirlooms from my mother. I'd like them back.
Oh, I lost them.
You lost them?
Sorry. I'll return them if I find them.
I was at a loss for words, too drained to even complain as I hung up the phone. I didn't want to blame her too much. It felt like bullying my daughter-in-law, and that made me uncomfortable. I convinced myself I'd given the money to her and let it go. I had been putting up with Avril's antics because I didn't want to make a fuss. But then, something happened that pushed me over the edge. One day, I went to the department store with my second son and his wife. We were shopping for a shoulder bag and a study desk for our granddaughter, who was starting elementary school. The shoulder bag section had everything from simple colors like red, blue, and yellow to more vibrant shades like lavender and pink. My granddaughter picked a simple red bag. Sierra, are you sure about this one?
Yep. It has cute hearts and butterflies on it.
All right, let's go with this. We also picked out a nice sturdy desk with a beautiful wood grain and plenty of storage. Both items would be delivered around Christmas. We left the department store in high spirits. Then Christmas Eve came. Sierra had been invited to a mom's friend's Christmas party and went out with my second son's wife. In the evening, after Sierra's desk and bag had been delivered, my eldest son's family showed up. Here's your Christmas gift, Kyle. The latest gaming console and some games.
Thanks, Grandma. I've wanted this forever.
Kyle's eyes were shining. He probably couldn't afford it himself. Yet Avril had a new designer bag every time I saw her. As they were leaving, Avril opened the door to Sierra's room without asking and peeked inside.
Wow, a red shoulder bag? How outdated.
And the desk looks old-fashioned.
Sierra chose them herself. It's none of your business. I couldn't help but snap back. Avril glared at me.
Defending her again, huh? You think she's so adorable?
Our Kyle is way more accomplished. She's the granddaughter of 2 people who didn't even go to college.
If you're going to go there, then I have my own thoughts on the matter. Avril smirked and left. I dismissed her as all talk, never thinking she'd actually do something. The next day, I came home from work and was hit by an awful smell as soon as I walked in. The source was Sierra's room at the end of the hall. When I opened the door, I was stunned, then screamed. The brand new study desk had been vandalized with red spray paint. I'm a poor elementary school student. Mom and Dad didn't even go to college, idiots. And her shoulder bag was splattered with brown paint. When I picked up the shoulder bag, my hands were sticky with paint. The hearts and butterflies that Sierra loved were now smeared in brown. Just then, Sierra and my second son's wife came home. They too were speechless at the sight, but Sierra walked past me and picked up her bag.
My bag is ruined.
Tears rolled down her cheeks and my heart ached. I quickly called the department store. After showing the pictures of the desk, I was told it was difficult to fix, so I reordered the same desk and shoulder bag. I was relieved to know they would arrive by the school ceremony and left the department store. When I got home, my husband and our younger son looked furious. Our granddaughter had cried herself to sleep. I had a hunch and asked my husband about it, and I was right. I reached out to our grandson and he kindly agreed to my request. Days later, I shared the results with my husband and our younger son and his wife. They agreed with my opinion. Now, all that was left was to wait for the holiday season when all the relatives would gather. 2 weeks later. On New Year's Eve, my house was bustling with relatives. Our eldest son's family was running late, but our grandson had arrived earlier to have dinner and play video games with our granddaughter. When the date finally changed, our eldest son and his wife arrived. Barely greeting anyone, they joined the party. They looked displeased when they saw only salad and some roast beef left on the table.
What the heck? There's barely anything left, man. I'm tired. Hey, give me a beer and a steak.
Mother-in-law, why have you been zoning out? Go get us some beer and snacks, either from a supermarket or a grocery store. You're really useless.
Although furious, I held my tongue considering the gathering of relatives, and then they complained more.
I haven't even heard a thank you for the Christmas gifts.
Gifts?
The desk and shoulder bag for Sierra? I made them cute for her.
Avril smirked.
I thought they looked poor, so I modernized them. Oh, you didn't like them? They looked like they were soaked in mud. They would perfectly symbolize her grim future.
Our niece's parents are dim-witted, so she'll never go to college. Poor, uneducated, and sickly. Her life's already a mess at 6.
Hilarious, she's living the dream.
You! My younger son was about to lash out, but I held him back with a glance. I understand. Let me think you properly. With clenched fist, I headed to the kitchen. I returned to the room with steak and a can of beer that I had prepared in case the table emptied. I slammed the raw steak in front of my eldest son and his wife and stabbed it with a knife and fork. Here, steak. Then I popped open a can of beer and poured it over Avril's head. Here's the beer you were waiting for. Mom, have you gone mad?
What are you doing? Ah, my eyes!
My eldest son rushed for a towel. No one intervened. Everyone was just stunned. After wiping her face and hair with the towel, Avril, her makeup ruined, yelled at me.
Mother-in-law, do you find it amusing to torment your daughter-in-law?
What are you talking about? But Avril, I've noticed you've started wearing men's cologne. I can smell it from the dress you're wearing. Avril sniffed her sleeves, looking startled. It's the same cologne my father used to wear, I remember it. My eldest son frowned, puzzled. Mom, Avril doesn't wear perfume. Oh, you're right. Avril pushes past her husband, stuttering as she tries to explain.
It's someone else's scent, okay?
Even though you came in the car, I shoot Avril a sharp look. I've heard quite a few things from Kyle, you know. Quite a few things. It's winter, but Avril is sweating. Her husband presses her. So you were at your high school reunion overnight, right?
Why wouldn't you believe your own wife over your mother?
The room goes silent except for the voices of the arguing couple. The relatives who were chattering moments ago have gone quiet, now keenly observing the marital dispute. Just then, my grandson walks in. He nods at me and speaks to Avril.
Mom, you're close with your private tutor, aren't you? Do they teach at your alma mater? Yes, they do. To get into a prestigious middle school, you need connections, even with teachers. Is that so?
Their son slyly takes out his phone and presses the playback button before setting it next to the raw meat. Avril's voice soon fills the room.
Oh, stop. Not now. Kai will be back soon.
We're fine, don't worry.
I'm looking forward to spending New Year's Eve at a hotel with a beautiful view.
I've cleared my schedule for that day. Thank you for always being generous.
Don't mention it. I make good money as an elite postgrad.
The room starts buzzing again, and her husband's face turns beet red. I just remembered an urgent matter. As Avril tries to sneak away, her husband grabs her arm. You're cheating on me with that college student?
So what if I am? I'm young and successful. Men are naturally attracted to me.
Avril becomes defiant.
I could have earned more than you if it weren't for Kyle. You think you're so great just because you earn a bit more with just a bachelor's degree?
She seems to realize she's misspoken.
Kyle did nothing wrong.
She tries to hug her son from behind to cover her slip, but he shakes her off.
I wasn't planning on divorcing you. We still have entrance exams to think about.
At the mention of entrance exams, her husband's expression changes. Single-parent families are at a disadvantage in exams. I'll let it go this time. He returns to the seat next to Avril with a cough. But Avril isn't done. She turns to my younger son's family.
Even if my salary's decreased since giving birth, it's still way above what bottom feeders make.
She gazes smugly at my younger son's family, who are politely enjoying the roast beef. That's right, comparing us super elites to you barely middle-income folks is just sad.
We live in a penthouse. We're at a different level. Honestly, I'm not too keen on letting our kids hang out.
I couldn't help but laugh at Avril's pompous statement.
What's so funny, mother-in-law? That's rude.
I'm sorry, but when people with zero class say something, it's laughable, don't you think? No matter if you're a high school grad or a dropout, there are many out there who are far more decent than you. I looked at my eldest son, sighed, and touched my cheek. Don't you feel embarrassed doing this in front of Sierra and Kyle?
Would you just stop?
Avril stood up, pointing at the younger son and his wife.
Benek and I work at prestigious companies, not some rundown factories like you people. Kyle will surely get into an elite middle school. We are the chosen ones.
And yet you both got fired from those prestigious companies. The room went tense.
How do you know that?
Avril mumbled. Can you believe he got fired after all that bragging?
His younger brother, who works so hard as a loving wife, is way more respectable.
And to think he acted so high and mighty with that innocent face. Avril looked down at me, stunned, and asked in a raspy voice, "How did you know, Mom-in-law?" "Didn't you know? My sister is the CEO where you worked. She told me you both were let go for bullying your colleagues." Gasps filled the room. The eldest son and his wife, the momentum they had until just now disappeared. Now they are crouching, hiding their pitiful faces. "What about the lawsuit from your subordinate for causing depression? They recorded your verbal abuse." Avril glared at me, grinding her teeth. "We'll get the best lawyers. And we still have Kyle." She moved to her son and laughed triumphantly. "My son was already chosen for a scholarship. A bright future is guaranteed if you have capable parents. Right, Kyle?" "What are you talking about, Mom?" Kyle spoke, clearly annoyed. "The scholarship was my doing, while you were too busy with your private tutor. Let me choose my own path." Avril went silent, a sour look on her face. "I'm leaving this family," Kyle announced. "What?" "I talked to Grandpa in Detroit. I'm moving there."
"Don't you dare make decisions on your own."
Ignoring his father's shout, Kyle pulled out his phone. "I can't live with these kind of people. I'll go crazy." He showed a video to the relatives gathering around. In the video, my eldest son spray painted on his niece's study desk, yelling,
Woohoo! I'm going to repaint my niece's poor shoulder bag into something stylish. It's like muddy water, so it's fun.
Avril was also there, splashing brown paint on a shoulder bag. "This is just insane." The relatives frowned and shook their heads. Even with their education, they're awful people. Being highly educated doesn't make you a decent person. At those accurate words, the eldest son and his wife fell silent and looked down. My grandson continued his rant. "So you got fired, and now you're planning to make Grandpa pay for my tuition? You think it's his duty to support his grandchild? You worry about losing your financial support if I move out, right?"
"Yeah, no more fun money."
"We won't even be able to buy clothes if unemployment runs out." Before worrying about that, think about the legal fees. When I offered this scathing advice, Avril paled significantly. "We need money even to settle out of court. Benedict, what are we going to do?" The eldest son, who had turned as white as a sheet, clung to me. "Mom, lend me some money. We're family, aren't we?" "You are Benedict's mother, aren't you?" "After everything you've done, you've got the nerve to ask." "You've got some nerve." Ignoring his parents, who were being berated by the relatives, the grandson went back to his video games. Eventually, the party ended, and one by one, the relatives left. The eldest son and his wife, who had been abandoned by their son, snapped back to reality when only the second son and his family remained. They lashed out at me. "You're destroying our family. That's really low."
"How could you use your grandson to set up your son like this? Are you even a mother?"
"If you have something to say it now. This is your last chance." "What?" "From now on, don't step foot in our house." My husband took over from there.
"We want to cut ties too, but since we can't disown you, we've made a notarized document. You're cut out of the inheritance."
This seemed to finally shock them. My eldest son held his head in his hands and groaned. Avril's eyes filled with tears as she began to tremble. And for good reason. Our estate is significant, including a considerable amount of land and rental income from condos and apartments.
"I'll say it again. Benedict gets nothing from the inheritance. You'll have to figure out a living expense and legal fees for yourself."
"Don't bother us anymore. You're a nuisance." With these cold words, the eldest son and his wife were devastated. They had been living comfortably in a high-rise apartment downtown until the layoffs came. They couldn't afford the management fees and moved to a cheaper apartment. However, our relatives who lived in the same town spread rumors about them, so every time they went out, they got badmouthed and had to sneak around even to go shopping. Although the case he was sued by his subordinate was settled by paying a settlement, he has used up all his savings and spends his days looking for jobs to make ends meet. Both the eldest son and Avril were picky about jobs because they felt they deserved better, but they often clashed with coworkers and customers because of their arrogant attitudes. They got fired repeatedly. Avril apparently got dumped by her private tutor, applying the principle, out of sight, out of mind. The eldest son considered divorcing, but they're living together to save on rent and living expenses. Thanks to Avril's affair, she can't stand up to her husband and is subdued. Now that Avril's unannounced visits and verbal abuses towards my second son's family have stopped, we're enjoying our peaceful daily lives. Sierra's smiles have become more frequent, and perhaps thanks to her newfound emotional stability, her health has also started to improve. We're hopeful that her symptoms will continue to get better, and eventually she won't need to visit the doctor anymore. Our grandson comes over from time to time, engaging in lively games and chit-chats about school with his sister. The sparkle in his eyes tells us he's enjoying his freedom away from his parents, thriving at his maternal grandfather's home. Moving forward, husband and I plan to continue supporting our second son's family and look forward to many happy days ahead.